Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Scion Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What if Deku develops spirit energies? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. All men are not created equal, a young voice narrated. The entire scene changed, showing that the voice belonged to a teenage boy with messy green hair. That was one of the first lessons the world taught me, the voice narrated as the boy was seen walking through the streets of the city, his head looking down and he was deep into his thoughts. That's me. Izuku Midoriya, the voice narrated, revealing the boy's name. The green-haired boy passed the intersection. He was walking happily and strong, his face looking calm and focused, listening to some music through his earbuds. There were some small scars on his face and his green eyes appeared bright and luminescent as he continued on his way, his posture straight and confident. That was the first of the many times that others have hurt me to put me in my place, the voice continued. The boy raised his gaze to look ahead at the passers-by, revealing his full appearance. He is a relatively tall boy, with a rather muscular young man who is well built for his age, a round face yet slightly sharpened, framed by a short mop of fluffy dark green hair which curls up at odd angles around his head, some short strands falling in front of his forehead and eyes. His eyes are large and somewhat circular with bright yet saturated green irises. He has a set of 4 symmetrical freckles in diamond formations, one on each cheek. The green-haired boy stopped in his tracks when he heard a savage scream echoing from afar. It was followed by heavy thuds, which made him look at the direction the noises came. What was that? A villain attack? Thud. Get away. Thud. Even more enraged screams and noises made the boy realize that there was possibly a villain attack. A normal person who cares about their safety would ignore this and move along. Sadly, Izuku wasn't one of those people, and the fact that his thought process thought that a villain attacked means that heroes on the scene dulled his almost non-existent self-preservation instincts. The greenette's eyes regained a bit of focus as he started to race towards the source. Yen. Some moments later. When Izuku arrived, he found himself in a huge crowd watching what was happening in front of the street that led to a train station. Even though he was tall, he was still able to squeeze between the group and hopefully see what was happening, and, when he managed to get a clear line of sight, he was completely shocked. A giant villain was on view. He had a rough, beastly appearance, possessing a head that resembled that of a horse or a shark, and a very wide-set, large muscular body. He was causing havoc, punching and stepping the rails he was standing on. The villain's eyes darted around quickly, trying to keep any heroes from getting closer. His stare was enraged and violent as he growled and roared with fury. The green-haired boy looked with wide eyes at the battle. He internally wondered how this attack started or why. He glanced around, trying to hear if the others who were watching for more time than him knew something. But, he didn't dare to ask directly, just the thought made him shake. A villain appeared. That's right. I'm at the train station. Not sure when I'll get in, he heard a man on his left shout to his phone. It didn't answer his question about what happened, so the boy scooted away, not liking the man's angry voice. The greenette stopped once he caught people talking about the incident. Turning into a monster? What a crazy quirk. What did he do? Another bystander says this made Izuku keep his attention on the conversation, curious if his weak curiosity was gonna be satisfied. Tried to steal a purse and started rampaging when he got cornered, the other bystander answered, making both the other guy and the green-haired boy understand why the giant villain was causing havoc. Suddenly a man's voice was heard, attracting the crowd's attention. Everyone stay away. It's dangerous. A hero dressed like a firefighter commanded as he put himself in front of the crowd, his back on them. He had what seemed like 2 fire hydrants on his arms, water bursting out of them, forming liquid ropes to keep the crowd away. Backdraft. The thief savagely punched a part of the tracks, causing debris to fly around, and a piece of it was flying on the civilians. Fortunately, the debris was intercepted by another hero, a very tall, muscular man of a wide build with slightly tanned skin. A square jaw that juts out a notable amount, small eyes, and short white hair, spiked out behind his head. Death arms. DMN it. He's totally out of control, it's too dangerous here, we gotta get the civilians out. Death arms shouted as he threw the debris to the side, urging the civilians to go away. The giant villain roared once again as he suddenly started to swing his arms around like something fast was circling him. The green-haired boy's eyes widened once he saw something, or better yet, someone swinging quickly around the villain, avoiding every sloppy desperate attack by using what seemed like tendrils made of wood to grapple parts of the railing to dodge. Wait, is that. Izuku muttered as he squinted his eyes and leaned a bit forward to look better. He managed to notice a bit of the person's costume and the color of the tendrils he was using to move around, brown like wood. His thoughts were cut off when he saw the hero slingshot himself on top of the metallic beam thanks to his tendrils. Now he was visible enough for everyone to see his features. He was a slightly short and muscular man, wearing an outfit consisting of a dark blue bodysuit that included a wooden belt, wooden knee pads, and wooden shoes. A small bundle of roses hangs from the left side of his belt. He was looking down at the thief, his eyes darting around as he noticed all the damage the criminal was causing and also how many people were watching. He crouched down close to the edge of the beam as his eyes narrowed. Disturbance of the peace, destruction of property, and attempt on civilian lives, you are under arrest, dirtbag. The hero says seriously as he indicates the villain with one finger, which results in the gigantic man swinging his arm towards him while roaring like an animal, but the hero nimbly dodges the attack and lands on another part of the rail. Izuku laughs inside seeing how ridiculous that sounds. What the hell was that, ha ha ha, that is so stupid. I see that you resist, very well, you leave me no choice than to force you to comply, the wood hero added with a narrowed gaze, dodging everything the villain could throw at him. At a certain point, his opponent staggered because of his not caring where he out his feet, giving the hero the opening he needed. Now it's time for my special move, he started to say as he brought his arm back, which was quickly covered by a multitude of branches. Preemptive binding, lacquered chain prison, he shouted as the branches were about to reach the villain. Until Canyon Cannon. A female loud voice shouted as a gigantic woman was suddenly seen on the scene, giving a devastating flying kick which impacted the villain, throwing him back and making him fall unconscious on the floor with a loud thud. The owner was even bigger than the villain, probably surpassing 20 meters in height. The crowd was left speechless by the intervention of the gigantic young woman, their mouth agape while they watched her land on the street with a big thud, causing the surroundings to shake. What? Who is she? Izuku thought, shocked with wide eyes. He never saw her. Is she a new heroine? She is wearing a costume and could be a vigilante, but she seems to not be very sneaky. He didn't have to wait long for his answer as he saw the giant woman crouch a bit close to the villain, her hand grasping and lifting his limp leg a little to make sure he was unconscious. Once she made sure she hit the target well, she raised herself to her full height, surprising once again the boy and the crowd with her sheer size. Piece of cake for the world's next hottest heroine, who finally made her debut, she says as she finally turns her titanic body to face the audience, a friendly and a bit proud look on her face, making the boy see her appearance in full. She was a curvaceous young woman with purple eyes with white pupils and elegantly long eyelashes. She has prolonged, voluminous, creamy blonde hair reaching down to her waist with two shorter strands curled to frame her face, parted slightly to her right. She was wearing a purple and pale tan-colored skin-tight bodysuit, which was accented with orange stripes. She also has a pair of purple gloves with orange accents on the edge of the cuff. The design is similar to her boots, which are cut off at the thigh in a deep V shape. The suit also has three peculiar orange diamond-shaped dots on the purple top that are located under her chest, and she also wears a purple domino mask with horn-like protrusions on the sides. The beautiful heroine then put a hand on her hip and gave the crowd a confident smile, ready to make her true debut. She could already see the paparazzi. She winked once she noticed them, but very attentive eyes could see some cracks in her almost sultry behavior, like it was forced. Faked. Izuku had to blink a couple of times once he noticed it. There was no one better than him to recognize when someone was faking being happy. Pleased to meet you all. You can call me MT Lady. You will not have to worry about this bum anymore. A good old kick made him quiet down, she declared with another cute wink and a peace sign, increasing the cheer of the male audience, all of them extremely thrilled such a beautiful and friendly woman as their new heroine. Nobody noticed Kamui Woods falling on his knees with a depressed aura around him. She is taking all the credits, the wood hero muttered downcast as an imaginary cloud was over him. Death Arms was beside him, patting his back with a sweat drop. Yen 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 yen. Meanwhile, Izuku was in his little world, muttering the details of the quirks he was lucky enough to observe. He was writing all of that in his notebook, which had various points where it seemed sentences were previously written but then covered by pen writing like its owner didn't like what others wrote like it was unwanted. A gigantification quirk, huh? Can be a double-edged sword due to potential collateral damage unless she can adjust her size. The greenest muttered as low as possible while he wrote on the pages, his mind already working to break down this quirk. A new hero, new analysis. A man next to him, who was busy staring at MT Lady, is intrigued by the boy's muttering, even managing to understand some words once he pays attention. He leaned a bit to the side, seeing the notebook content, and he couldn't help himself from whistling. Whistle DMN, kiddo, that's some good analysis. You go there. Want to join them? The man chimed with a friendly grin as he indicated the pro heroes with a hash thumb. The boy turned around for a moment as he looked at the man curiously. He was able to sense his friendly tone and not threatening body language. Yes. More than anything, he said with confidence, keeping the notebook close to his chest. A friendly grin made its way onto his face as he laughed a bit. He raised his hand a bit and then used it to lightly pat the boy on the shoulder in a friendly way. I see. Well, if you ask me, that big brain of yours will get you far. I will cheer for you when you make your debut, kiddo, he concluded with a thumbs up. The boy's eyes widened a bit, completely shocked by the man's kind words. A little light seemed to glow in his eyes. A small bright smile seemed to appear on his lips. Thank you. I'll do my best, Izuku said, but then noticed that he was late and immediately bowed politely to the man and walked again towards probably the place he is most afraid of and hates most of all at the same time. Yen. Aldera Junior High. Izuku opened the door that led to his classroom as quietly as possible so as not to attract attention. But, as soon as he entered he was welcomed by glares of disgust, indifference, and some of them even anticipation to have the opportunity to put the quirkless garbage in his place again. They all had the not written and not spoken permission to do anything they wanted with him. His dream was pathetic, his personality was pathetic, and his being quirkless was pathetic. Quirkless tried to oppress the quirked, so, like the teachers suggested, why not give them the favor back? A thrilling idea. The greenette simply sighs while walking towards his seat and sits on it, trying to make himself as unnoticed as possible. After a few seconds of glaring at Izuku, the students got back to what they were doing before. Meanwhile, the green-haired boy was thinking about some training ideas after school. Man, I want to use my spirit gun on these idiots so bad, but... Izuku thought as he could already feel their ki wanting to kill him. He always hated being in this school, he changed it regularly, but it was always the same. Here it was even worse and he can't change it or he will need to repeat the year. He thought using his spirit energy, and showing everyone that it was a quirk, but people would get suspicious about him getting a quirk out of nowhere after 10 years. Yeah, that wouldn't be good, so he had to hide his true self until he got into UA. His thoughts were interrupted by the entrance of the teacher. He was with a stack of papers in his hands. Calm down everyone, as you know this is your last school year and you have to decide what you will do in your future, he says as he sits behind the desk. He remains silent for a couple of seconds until he throws the modules in the air. But who am I kidding, you all want to be heroes. As he says this, everyone starts cheering and using their quirks to show off. Izuku just looks down at his notes and ignores them as much as possible. Already knowing that this day would be worse than usual, he could feel it, considering that for 10 years, almost every day was bad. Hey teach, do not include me among this garbage, at most they will be footstools for some unknown hero. Always if they are lucky, says arrogantly a boy with ash blonde hair. He had his feet on the desk. What do you mean by this, Katsuki? Are you looking down on us? Shouts one of the students with an offended voice. Katsuki Bakugo, an arrogant narcissist, obsessed with the idea that everyone is under him. He and I were once friends, but since he received his quirk, explosion, he has become more and more arrogant and violent. I have become his favorite victim ever since. I have long since abandoned the idea that he and I can get along. I have tried everything, be kind, appear fearless, talk to the school staff. Everything has resulted in a stronger beating, Izuku thinks looking at him. Did you say something, extras? Come on, let's see what you do. You have no hope, after all, I'll be the only one going to UA, he says with an arrogant grin. He then jumps and stands on his desk, sparks coming out of his hands. I aced in all the mock tests. They will have the honor of having someone like me, future hero number 1. I will become the most powerful, famous, and richer hero that will ever be known, even more than All Might. Katsuki says, pride coming out of every pore. The teacher, instead of stopping his rant, looks at him with a proud smile, but it disappears as he notices a certain name among the forms. He turns towards the boy responsible for his disappointment. Izuku Midoriya, a quirkless waste, still thinks that he can be something that he will not be able to reach. I'll better destroy this madness, he thinks maliciously. Midoriya also wants to go to UA. Well, this is surprising. I guess they accept everyone's requests nowadays, he says passively but internally prepares for the show. Everyone freezes on the spot including Katsuki. After a couple of seconds, they immediately look at the mentioned boy. Without losing even a second, they all burst out laughing. Some started to mock his waiting to be a hero. Others were laughing too hard to even form an insult to say to the guy they consider inferior to them. More punching bag and quirk target. That's what I was trying to say. I'm quirkless, and in a world like this, it means you're worth less than nothing, Izuku thinks, feeling annoyed at this most. He looked at everyone, all those mockeries. All these insults. He gripped his fist in anger while he felt his last bit of composure break, ready to beat down everyone. He just wants to be a hero. What's wrong with that? They got rid of that rule, it's only that no one has ever tried. I'm going to be the first dash, he said to defend his dream, but before he could finish his sentence, he sensed an attack incoming from in front. An explosion was created in front of him, his body immediately and quickly dodges. He saw these explosions many times and he felt them many times on his own body. Which still has the marks. They never fade. He looked at his scorched desk and looked up, finding a furious Katsuki who, after stopping him from saying what was complete bullshit for the ash blonde ears, grabbed him by the collar of his uniform and put him on the wall. The boy doesn't even whine on pain, his body was durable enough to handle this from all the years of training. You lousy pathetic quirkless trash. How the F do you dare to even think you can come to UA? How many times did I say to never try? How many? Do you believe you can compete with me? You're even worse than these extras, Deku. You even sending a request is an insult? He roared as he raised him from the floor, still holding him by the collar. Class just continued to either laugh or watch the show as they enjoyed it. They enjoyed seeing him suffer. Izuku was really trying to beat down, energy started leaking out from his fist, gripping so hard that his knuckles started turning white. I don't want to compete with you, Bakugo. I want to be a hero since I was a kid and I'll never know if I don't try. I just want to try, Izuku says. Rarely he passes a week without being physically hurt to any degree. Even with the training and key dodges some of the hits which people he just good reflexes, it become the norm. Why? Why can't it just stop? What did he do to deserve this? Why do quirkless people always have to be treated like shit? This made the ash blonde even angrier, like the greenette's dream was a personal insult. Try? Being quirkless also made you lose your mind? They won't even look you in the eyes as they kick you out of the exam, scum, like you don't even deserve the chance, he roared as he continued to painfully press him against the wall, not caring about how much he was scaring and hurting the green-haired boy. He was a pebble that was trying to ruin his hero origin. Why should they even consider you when they can have me? Me, he finished as he raised his voice even more. For a moment Izuku was beyond said, these words hit him harder than any punch the blonde could give him. He noticed disgusted or indifferent looks everyone else was giving him while the ash blonde kept berating him. Their lips moving and producing insults or being parted to join the chorus of mocking laughter directed at him. The green-haired boy was thinking if he was real, he didn't give up on even defending the pride he had. Even though it wasn't going to change anything after all, this wasn't the first time they just told him to die somewhere or to give up half of the class and directly treat him like he was infected with the plague. It got so mentally draining that his self-confidence never wavered. He worked too hard and longed to give this up now. Alright, Katsuki, that's enough, solve your problems after class. You know how it works here, the teacher interrupted the berating, his voice didn't carry that much scolding intent. It was like what happened was just an inconvenience, maybe not even one, more like when you let your kids play for too long. The man was internally satisfied with the progress of his class, their hate for weakness was evolving to reach new peaks, and their loyalty as well. Katsuki rolled his eyes as he let go of Izuku's collar, making the boy fall on his feet. He just sighed, he was used to it, but it just got worse. He was just so tired. He believed someone like him could a hero. He doesn't understand. What's wrong with them? Yen. Meanwhile, out in the city, people could be heard shouting, someone stop him, call a hero, hurry, yells a shop owner that was being robbed by a criminal. The latter is completely made of sludge and runs in the streets with cash registers and various valuables taken from passers-by stuck in his body. No one noticed a skinny man standing there with groceries in his hand. He turned his head slightly, hearing the calls for help, a dull blue glow enveloping his irises. Did someone say there was a need for a hero? He says as steam started to come from his skin. His body seemed to be bulging, powerful muscles growing on the previously feeble limbs. After a couple of seconds, instead of a sickly-looking man, there was an extremely muscular and imposing one, his entire form rumbling with power. I am here now, answering your call, the man laughed with a too familiar laugh. Its booming words made everyone turn their gazes on him, their eyes widened like plates as realization hit them. They couldn't believe it. He was here. The man didn't let the crowd trying to talk to him slow him down. He thought later of giving signatures, there was a villain to catch, and so he took off, running at speeds that no normal man could achieve. Yen. Back on Aldera. Finally, at the end of the usual bad school day, an exhausted Izuku was busy putting his things in his backpack. The events of a few hours ago had cracked his spirit even more. The only thing he wanted to do now was to go home and hug the only person who treated him like a human being. However, when he was about to put his notebook with his quirk analysis in his backpack, a hand snatched it from his hand, causing him to sigh and look at his side with wide and tired eyes, seeing Katsuki there holding his notebook. We haven't finished our little chat, Deku, Katsuki scoffed as he held the notebook tightly, a not-so-happy look on his face, his glare increasing the green-haired boy's frustration even more. The blonde glanced at the notebook, his eyes squinting even more. Hero analysis for the future? Are you kidding, right? The more time passes, the more you delude yourself into having even one chance to walk. Among the heroes, Katsuki mocked him. What are you holding, Katsuki? Says one of his friends as he approaches. After he sees what Katsuki has in his hand. A mocking smirk made its way onto his face as he looked at Izuku. I can't believe it, hero analysis for the future? What future? You have nothing, Midoriya. He didn't hold back in his words, stabbing the green-haired boy with confidence. It's hopeless, I'm almost sorry for you, almost, says another of Katsuki's friends. Can you give it back, please? Izuku asked as he tried to keep eye contact. He didn't want to step on dangerous territory as a misstep and he was going to be beaten up, or receive another round of insults. He knew he could beat Bakugo down to the ground. But honestly, it wasn't worth it. But of course, wait, since I'll be number one, all the better that I give you an autograph in advance, he mocked as he slammed his hands together, generating small explosions that burned the notebook, much to Izuku's horror. Hey! Izuku yelled with wide eyes as he saw his precious notebook scorched without a single regret, and to make things worse, the blonde glanced at him, at the notebook, and then he threw it towards the window. The green-haired tried to reach for it before it could fall out the window, but it was too late. It was gone. His eyes became even more shocked. The boy could feel fresh salty tears dripping from his eyes, his hands were twitching, still extended towards the window. Why? I didn't do anything. What the hell is your problem? He whispered. He couldn't believe how far they could go to ruin him. Every bit of happiness was destroyed by them. Don't look so sad, Deku, it can't be helped, the green-haired boy heard from behind, making his nerves twitch and making him slowly look back, finding the blonde without a bit of guilt for what he had just done. I'm just trying to remove mistakes from my origin story. I don't want to talk about a quirkless failure dying in the background while I become the number one hero. It gives a certain pathetic taste to the story, don't you agree? Katsuki mocked with a fake friendly voice as he walked towards his victim. He heard his goons snickering a little about his ego, but he ignored them for now to focus on the person he despises most. People show greatness from newborn. Do you understand? You got nothing, zero, so do me a favor, Deku, he continued as he placed a smoking hand on Izuku's shoulder, the ash blonde stare suddenly becoming dead serious, the fake smile and voice completely gone. Don't even try to put a foot on UA. Got it, he threatened with a glare as the warmth of his hand rose and started to hurt Izuku. The greenette's body didn't even flinch nor shake as he already knew that he was going to be hurt for the amusement of others, again. After a few seconds of silence, he sighs, a disgusted expression on his face as he pushes Izuku away, a bit of smoke coming from the green-haired boy's shoulder. The greenette looked back at him in suppressed anger. Really? Nothing? I thought you weren't so pathetic and had at least some fight in you. Oh well, I hope the message has finally entered your head. You have no chance, he finished as he started to head out together with his band. Izuku's body instinctively formed his hand like a gun with his pointer finger, the slight sound of crackling electricity while the sound of a constant high-pitched beeping sound started getting higher and higher while his spirit energy formed around it. Fortunately, Izuku regained focus and powered down his energy. From what he was told, at least he was happy he wouldn't be beaten today until Katsuki stopped and looked at him again, a grin on his face. You know, there is a way you can stand a chance, he says in a neutral tone as Izuku looks at him in shock. He doesn't know what to expect from him, so he just waits on guard. Hope to be born with a quirk in your next life, and go take a swan dive off the roof. I'm sure no one will miss you. Bye, he concluded as he walked towards the door without even turning back, leaving a shell-shocked Izuku behind. The greenette's pupils were so small, showing that the words hit as deep as they could. Did that BSTRD just occurred? Suicide? Thud. With a strong thud, the door of the classroom was closed, leaving the green-haired boy alone. He didn't know how much time passed after the three guys left him there. Seconds? Minutes? He doesn't know. His mind was completely numb as it was not able to process all that just happened, mental pain, frustration, anger, and stress in one go. Sighs. I don't understand why. Why? What have I done to deserve this? I can't do this anymore. Things have to change. He said to himself. Then looks at his finger. The flicker of his spirit energy was roaring, ready to be unleashed. Forming a fist, looking back out the window up in the sky. He then smiles with a confident look, seeing the determination and passion in his eye. He finally made his decision. It's time. Yen. Afterward, the boy grabbed the last few things and put them in his backpack. Now ready to go home, Izuku silently walked down the stairs. With a tired and stressed exhale, the the boy finally exited the hell he called school. He walked past a fish tank but stopped once he caught a glimpse of his notebook in the water. The equally soaked and burned notebook was being bitten by the fish in it. The boy quickly rushed to the edge of the tank and grabbed it before it could be ruined even more. "It's not food," he muttered sadly as he looked at his ruined notebook. "It was burned and soaked." "You never stop destroying the only things that make me happy," he muttered, then proceeded along the road to the only place where he could have at least some peace. "Now that today is over, I should probably think of some new training exercises to improve my Reshiken," Izuku said while holding his hand under his chin. Training his abilities always made him feel better and happy. He remembers how all of this started, the worst day of his life. The day of that cursed quirk exam and yen. Flashback. A 4-year-old Izuku was seen rushing into the kitchen of his home with an All Might figurine in his small hand. His steps weren't coordinated, they were more like cute little jumps than a normal walk. He was walking towards a green-haired woman, who was busy washing dishes in the sink. "Mom, hurry! Come on, Mom! It's computer time!" The little boy whined as he stood beside the taller woman, doing some excited little jumps while standing. This made the woman turn her head to look down at her son. A sweet smile adorned her lips as she couldn't help but chuckle a little. "Again, Izuku? Okay, you won, honey. I just need to finish here and I turn on the computer for you," she replied as she smiled a bit wider and then turned back to what she was doing before. The 4-year-old Izuku nodded excitedly and tried to keep his enthusiasm at bay while looking at the little All Might figurine in his hand. He could already hear his super cool laugh. After a while, he heard the sound of the sink being turned off. He looked up and, to his delight, noticed that his mother was done with the dishes. This could only mean, "Let's go, computer time," the woman says with a smile as she follows her energetic son to another room. As soon as she entered, she could see the little boy dragging the taller chair a bit back so he could climb to sit on it. With some adorable effort, he managed to sit in front of the computer, moving back and forth with impatience. The green-haired woman walked closer and stood beside him, leaning a bit forward so she could turn on the computer and prepare the video that her son was so excited to see once more. "Geez, I think you've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku. I don't know why you like it, I think it's scary," the woman says with a small chuckle. With a final click, the show began. The younger Izuku immediately leaned forward with sparkling eyes, and a wide smile on his lips, watching with laser-like attention as the video started. The video showed what looked like a disaster aftermath. Buildings were in rubble, fire was everywhere, and the screams of civilians in distress were echoing in the distance. Everyone was asking for help, for a hero. And a hero answered the call. "Ha ha ha ha!" A booming laugh cut the despair like a knife, making whoever was recording turn the camera towards the source, showing a large and muscular man on top of the rubble, carrying multiple people on his back without visible effort. A bright and wide smile seemed to be always on his lips, like a star in the night sky. "Is that guy again? He already saved at least 100 people and it hasn't even been 10 minutes and he got even more. This is crazy. I can't believe it." A man was heard shouting with both shock but also growing admiration. Everyone that was there was flabbergasted. That man was doing much better than a whole group of heroes. "Fear not, citizens. Help has arrived. The muscular man declared with a booming and confident voice as he took a step forward, the floor barely able to crack under his mighty strength. "Because I am here," he concluded as his smile just widened. This was his debut. The debut of the #1 hero, All Might. The young boy's eyes couldn't get any brighter. He had seen this video many times, but it never got old. There was just a thought that his young mind could form when he saw the hero helping everyone and giving hope with a smile on his face. "He's the coolest in the universe. And once I get my quirk, I'm gonna be a hero just like him," he thought with a big smile, already picturing himself standing beside his favorite hero as they fight injustices. He wants his quirk so bad. However, the excitement died quickly once the memory shifted to another location. That cursed doctor's office. "That will not happen, you'd better give up," a middle-aged man completely destroyed the young boy's dream with a simple sentence told with little compassion or intent of lessening the blow. "WH what?" Young Izuku gasped as his entire body seemed to become white as a sheet with shock present in every part of his face. The All Might action figure dropped from his hand, but he didn't even look down at it. His pupils were small and staring ahead. "Oh dear. So you think there's something wrong, then? All of the other kindergartners in his class have begun to show signs of their quirks, but my son is the only one who didn't." The green-haired woman asked with a worried tone and gaze as she glanced at her son. However, she had a hard time not showing her displeasure on how the doctor just delivered the news to the little boy. "In a way. Madam, you are a 4th-generation quirk user, no? What quirk do you and the boy's father have? The doctor asked calmly as he leaned back on his chair while joining his hands together. His eyes were covered by round and big goggles, hiding his disinterested and cold stare. The woman nodded, putting a hand on her cheek as she noticed the dropped toy, ignored by her son, who still hadn't recovered from the shock. I can attract small objects to me. As for my husband, he can breathe fire. She explained as she used her free hand to lift the action figure and bring it to her hand. The process was slow, probably because she doesn't use it a lot. She then glanced at her son with a worried gaze. They could be useful for him, right? She continued as she patted her son's hair, trying to give him comfort. Maybe he was just a late bloomer. Well, madam, in normal circumstances, your son should have already manifested one of these quirks or a combination of both, but after viewing his X-rays, I don't think he's going to. The doctor explained as he pointed at an X-ray of the boy's foot, especially on a specific point, the joint of the pinky bone. You see, when superpowers first began appearing, there were many research studies conducted and doctors discovered a link between the bones in a person's foot and their likelihood of developing a quirk. People with powers have only one joint in their pinky toes. Their bodies have evolved into a more streamlined version of the human form. You can see here that your son has 2 joints in his pinky. Like roughly 5% of the population these days. Based on the available research, it's safe to say your son isn't going to develop a quirk, the doctor explained dryly, killing the last bit of hope of the green-haired boy having a quirk and just being a late bloomer. So he was quirkless. The little boy repeated in his head like a mantra as he looked down with a dazed stare. He couldn't believe it. How was he going to be a hero like All Might if he didn't have any power? How? How? He knew since he was 3 that he was special, and not the way his mother would describe being, but being able to sense things. He didn't know if it was his quirk at first. But no, now that he found out he was quirkless, he was sure that this gift was all his own. So he decided to keep this to himself, even from his mother. Now that he knew he was quirkless, this wasn't going to stop him. He thought about how All Might wasn't a hero by birth. He trained hard, so if he did it, why would he look at his hands thinking of the many possibilities for him to train? The woman sighed sadly as he forced herself to be polite to the merciless doctor, thanking him as she softly took her son's hand and guided him out of the office. He was silent for the trip, just increasing her worry. Yen. Midoriya's house. Inko was walking back and forth in the living room. Since they came back, her son silently walked in his room and didn't go out for hours. She wanted to give him a bit of space to not feel overwhelmed. She knew how much he cared about having a quirk and being a hero, so she hoped he would go search for her once he was ready, and he would give him all the comfort he needed and some more. But after a couple of hours, she couldn't wait any longer. The woman stood in front of her son's room, her delicate hand grasping the handle and turning it, opening the door slowly so as not to scare him. When she peeked from it, she noticed that the lights were off, the rain outside hitting the window. Fear not, citizens. Help has arrived. Because I am here. The same booming voice came from the turned-on PC, making her glance at it. Her eyes widened a bit, even if the chair was covering him. Izuku was on the floor doing push-ups. She then noticed that he was struggling, but he kept pushing through. All Might never became hero, just like that. He trained, so I have to train. T2 I will become a hero, that I promise, Izuku said, struggling through his push. His mother covered her mouth with her hand, seeing her son work so hard for his dream, smiled as she teared up, closing the door and leaving him be. Yen. Time skip. It was the weekend and his mother was out at work, but Izuku, who was currently at Takoba Municipal Beach Park, had accumulated trash coming from the sea for years, turning it from a beautiful beach spot into a trash heap. But for Izuku, he saw that this is the perfect place to train. But then he had a feeling that his gift was telling him something was nearby. Even for his age, he was more smart than most kids. He then concentrates on the feeling until he picked something up. He opened and rushed over to a hump of trash, going through the garage, moldy wood, and rusted car parts. Luckily for him, there was something he could do enough. After a minute of digging through the garage, he found a dark brown old simple Butsudan with some of the wood being slightly warped and chipped. However, what caught his feeling was inside. He opened it to find a square object wrapped up in cloth. Curious that he was feeling some weird energy coming from the object, deciding to take it home, Izuku takes it and heads back to his house before his mother gets back from work. Yen. Midoriya's house. Izuku was now home in his room with the object, which was a surprisingly perfect preserved leather book, with a thicker leather binder, a strap with a lock, and a symbol in kanji that said energy. Unlocking the strap and opening the book, he started reading the paragraph, surprised that the word was also perfectly preserved. Ki is the flow of life energy within people's bodies, including humans and animals, and is affected by their thoughts and actions. The quality of a person's ki is influenced by their emotions and intentions, such as people with tumultuous emotions have equally chaotic ki and those filled with malice have unsettling ki. Each individual's ki is unique, and it is rare for different individuals' ki to be the same. With proper training, ki sensing can be used as an additional sense to predict attacks and others' movements, including natural objects and events found in nature. It can even locate invisible people. By tracking another person's ki, a sensor can detect whether or not that person is lying. This intrigued Izuku, thinking that his gift may be him using ki. Looking at another part of the paragraph, it says that some people could be born with an innate ability for ki. Wait, what's this? Spirit energy. This ability is the energy possessed by all humans. By deliberately manipulating their ki, the user can tap into any extra power known as spirit energy. However, the strength of the energy varies between persons. It is unique from person to person, much in the same way as fingerprints and voice prints. Energy can be converted into weapons, used to enhance the strength of the body and heal. If that's true, then maybe, Izuku thought. Looking at his hand, he then closed his eyes and concentrated on finding his spirit energy. He searched and searched until he found a pulsing, calm yet strong energy in the center of his chest and around his body. It felt so warm and comfortable, as if he was wrapped by a warm blanket. He gasped in surprise as he was covered in a milky teal color flowing energy-like aura. Izuku then smiled brightly at this, knowing he found his way. Yen 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 yen. End flashback. The boy clenched his fist. The worst and greatest day of his life, the start of his training, learning ki and spirit energy, has been there for 10 years, bleeding fresh pain in his mind every time he remembers that day. It made him smile remembering he found the book. He looked down as he clenched his shaking fists, not caring about what others said. I'll prove them all wrong, their words won't get me. He muttered in his gaze. He remembered how worse his treatment got when he entered middle school. The beatings got so frequent and heavy that his body was in agony most of the time, and cracked or even broken bones became almost a monthly thing. Even after healing himself up, it still hurt like hell, but made for good healing, pain tolerance, and focusing training. They did everything to hurt me, even faking to be my friends, making me feel something other than fear. But then they snatched it from me with kicks and punches after I let my guard down. That they liked to see me hurt that much, he thought. If there was something that hurt the most, it was betrayal, faking to be different, to consider him someone worth protecting and talking to. But they lied. They always lie, except his mother. She is the only one that fights for him. She is the one that tries to get the police involved or try to make the school act against the abusers. The only reason Izuku is still there was that they were threatened to stay. If he didn't, they would mess up his school records, so he would into any school, not even UA. I will never trust anyone again. Someone like me will always be looked down upon. Nobody will find me worth protecting. Izuku muttered as he looked down at his hands, the whole thing overwhelming his tired mind. That's why I will do the protecting. As a hero. I promised that I wouldn't give up, he concluded as he resumed walking. His pace quickened as he really wanted to hug his mother and let some of the frustration melt away in the affection he so desperately desired. Other than his training, his mother never once refused to give him affection, and he was eternally grateful to have at least one person that really cares about him in this world. He skipped under a bridge. The dark unnerved him a little, putting him on guard that his classmates may have prepared an ambush there. Luckily for him, he didn't hear anyone, so he continued to nervously walk forward, just to stop when he heard a noise behind him. Gloop! He senses a strong ki from behind, turns around, and gets into a fight stance. A viscous sound followed by a sort of sludge coming from the manhole behind the greenest. The sludge quickly formed a deformed body, and by the way, his yellow eyes were narrowed. He wasn't very happy. Just my luck. How the F is possible that BSTRD is here in the city? I need to hit her. Oh, the living mass of sludge snarled between rotten teeth, but he stopped once he saw the green-haired boy, who looked like he was ready for a fight. It seems luck is on my side now, a perfect skin suit for me to hide in. Hey, kid, you don't mind giving me that body, don't you? The villain says in a fake friendly tone, but his SDSM and cruelty aren't hidden at all. Izuku quickly leaps back, avoiding one of the villain's tendrils. Channeling his spirit energy into a fist, he punches some of the tendrils, exploding on impact. Ha, an energy-type quirk, perfect, just what I need. Come here, brat. The villain roars, charged with multiple tendrils, but thanks to Izuku's ki he was able to dodge and avoid them easily. How rude, you refuse to help someone in need. Time to teach you a lesson in courtesy. The villain growled at Izuku, ready for another barrage. But then, boom! The same manhole the villain came from was burst open. An extremely large and muscular man came from it, his blue glowing irises finding the villain and the boy. Both rage and concern were present in his stare, but he quickly stood straight and prepared to save the young boy. Do not worry, kid. I am here now. the man declared as he immediately brought his fist back, the already impressive muscles bulging slightly as overwhelming power was regulated to defeat the villain without hurting the boy. All Might? No, stay away. You monster! The Sludge villain shouted with both fear and anger. He immediately sent a liquid tendril to strike the number one hero, but the man ducked under the attack with ease and rushed forward at blinding speed. The villain unsuccessfully tried to attack him again with another swipe. But the hero dodged time and then planted his feet firmly on the ground and clenched his fist. Before the villain could even realize that his defeat was just a matter of a couple of seconds. Texas Smash! All Might shouted as he threw a powerful punch in the direction of the villain, creating wind so strong that it completely bulldozed its way through the Sludge attacks and found its target, reducing the villain to pieces, but the resulting blast knocked back Izuku, knocking back to the wall, bouncing off and landing the ground. Looking up forward, he couldn't believe his eyes. All Might? It was the only thing that Izuku could mutter, that he was just saved by his idol hero. Phew, you gave me a big scare, young man, but I am impressed that you handled yourself so well. Sorry for not coming sooner. This city's sewer system is a bit of a labyrinth, the hero chuckled with a small embarrassed sweat drop dripping from his forehead. He had more than a scare, a heart attack would be more like it. The boy blinked once, then twice, the gears of his head shifting into overdrive. Before the hero could ask if he was feeling okay, the greenette yelped as he quickly stood with a shocked expression, his eyes having both disbelief, but also admiration. All Might. Why you are here? Okay Kami, All Might is in FF front of me. He is so much cooler in person. Izuku stuttered, flabbergasted as his fanboy side took over, seemingly talking to the hero and himself at the same time, confusing a bit the hero, but hey, he appreciates the praises. Suddenly, the boy stopped in his tracks and seemed to be hastily looking around for something. My notebook, I need to ask for an autograph, he muttered softly to himself as he quickly grew frustrated. He had his idol right in front of him and not a notebook to beg for him to sign. What an awful day. However, he was soon interrupted by the hero, who leaned forward with a chuckle. Are you looking for this? All Might asked as he extended his right hand towards the boy, making him see that he had his burned notebook. Ah. TT, thank you so much, Mr. All Might. See, could you sign my notebook, huh? He already did. Thank you so much? Izuku gasped as he noticed that the hero had already given a signature on one of the pages dedicated to him in the boy's notebook. This made the greenette stop in his tracks and look up with quivering lips and a more animated stare face, the dizziness and pain completely left behind for now. All Might let out another small chuckle because of the boy's excitement. His thought process was interrupted when he felt an unfortunately familiar pressure enveloping his body. Sheet, my time is running out. I need to go now. All Might thought hurriedly as he mentally cursed his limited time in this form. He shook his head and cleared his throat, making the shaking boy jump a bit and look at him. Well, be more careful, okay? If there's nothing else, I need to get this guy to the police so they can take care of him. Stay out of trouble, see you around. The hero says as he patted his pocket, showing that the villain was passed out in a bottle that was kept there. He nodded at the boy with a smile and started walking away, much to the greenette's surprise. Wait, so soon? I didn't get to ask that question, did I? Wait. The boy thought, alarmed as he saw the hero's broad and wide back growing smaller as he walked away, his courage reduced to ash as he couldn't find the strength to say a word. His favorite hero was here, he could ask him that question, but his fear was holding him back. So he can be a hero too? His younger self's voice resonated in his mind. In a moment, his eyes regained focus as he looked at the crouched hero, who was about to jump away. He can't let his chance get away, even if he must risk his hero finding out he is quirkless, he will accept the hate, and he needs an answer. So he rushed more quickly than his conditions could allow him, and reached for the hero, trying to pull the hem of his shirt to grab his attention. However, this proved to be a dangerous idea, because as soon as his hand took hold of the shirt, the hero jumped high in the air, dragging the greenette with him. As the hero seemingly flew in the air like a rocket thanks to his immense strength, he could swear he could feel something on his leg. Strange. Why do I feel something on my leg? Huh? All Might muttered, puzzled to himself as he glanced down. His eyes widened in shock as he saw the same boy before clinging to his leg, holding for dear life. Young man. What are you doing? Hold on, he shouted, shocked as he instinctively used his right hand to push the boy on his leg and hold the collar of his school uniform not to let him fall. I'm sorry, All Might. But please, I have a question. You're my all-time favorite hero. I won't bother you ever again. Izuku tried to shout even with the air hitting his face. His mind was split, being terrorized that he was so high in the air while the other was urging him to chase after the hero for an answer. Okay, I get it, fanboy, now hold on. I'll land somewhere, the hero relented as he looked ahead while still holding the boy steadily. However, he was starting to feel the pressure in his body increasing, the metallic taste of blood irritating his mouth as some drops exited from the space between his teeth. Sheet, he cursed inside his mind, this day couldn't get any more stressful. What he didn't notice was that the bottle containing the villain slipped out of the hero's pocket, falling into an alley. Yen. In another location. Katsuki was walking in an alley followed by his two friends. Lackey would be a better word for these two extras. The ash blonde had a big scowl on his face as the events of this school day replayed inside his mind again and again. That green-haired BSTRD never stopped challenging him, always thinking he was better than him. No matter how many times he showed him he was superior, he always pursued that shitty dream of his, being a quirkless hero? This is a straight-up insult. Man, I still can't believe that he is still trying to get to UA, that head of his must be filled with rocks, or maybe we just hit him too hard last week. Who wanna bet that he is gonna die on the first day? Maybe even before stepping inside, one of the two snickered as he nudged the other, who was stretching his arms above his head. Yawn, not like it would be a great loss anyway, people like him are all gonna die out in a couple of generations. Teach told us how they are just a step backward from us, so why worry? But they will just kick him out as soon as he steps inside, if they even accept his request, that is, but I doubt it. What an idiot, the other one mocked without a once of guilt. At this point, years of well-placed lessons and words have turned the entire class, if not half the entire school against the quirkless green-haired boy. The same boy turned to look at the ash blonde walking ahead of him while silently sipping from a soda can. What about you, Katsuki? You two knew each other since kindergarten, was he always this delusional? He asked with a grin. If there was someone who hated that Deku, it was Katsuki. He made it clear a lot of times. The explosion user simply sneered as he heard the two extras mock that equally pathetic BSTRD. These two were just stepping stones like everyone else. His hand was clenching tightly the can he was sipping from, the metal bending because under his irritated grip. Kaken, why you are scaring me? A very young voice echoed inside his mind, so scared and vulnerable that it would have made many hesitate, but not him. He knows the truth behind those fake teary eyes, that BSTRD was always looking down on him. Someone's gotta teach that worthless BSTRD how the world works. He's still trying to be a hero, just FING sees me off. The ash blonde says with gritted teeth as his right hand releases a small explosion, scorching the can. The boy then scowled and threw the can away, resuming walking shortly after. Both boys huffed as they were internally cursing the ash blonde grumpy behavior, but they needed to tolerate him. The guy is popular and powerful, thus making them also more popular and respected than others. Hey, I got an idea, we should go to the arcade. Get your mind off that freak, you know? The first guy suggested as he snapped his fingers, trying to do something fun for once. Apart from the usual tormenting of the quirkless boy, school was boring. Oh. Or we can sneak into the bar at the station. Pick up some ladies. Now that's a good idea. The second one says with a smirk and doing finger guns. What both didn't expect was the ash blonde turning around with a glare. Idiots. If we get caught, there's no way UA would let me in. Katsuki snapped with sparks coming from his hands. These two are FING morons. 2 weeks ago one of them was smoking close to him. If someone caught him with these two, then his changes are gone. He didn't notice that he stepped on a bottle when he snarled at them, causing a strange liquid to go out. Oi, calm down, alright, we do what you want, the first guy started to say but stopped once he saw something behind Katsuki, a growing mass of sludge. The other guy's eyes also widened in horror, much to the ash blonde's confusion, at least, until he heard someone speaking behind him. Thank goodness I managed to escape. Huh? Hey kids, say, do you want to help someone in need? I need a body where to hide, the voice says with growing sadistic glee, making chills run up the ash blonde's spine, making him hastily turn around and see the living mass of sludge towering over him. Katsuki heard quick steps growing quieter by the second behind him. When he turned his head slightly to see what were the two extras doing, he saw that they were running away, leaving him there alone. He looks like it's just us, buddy, the villain chuckled as he expanded his body even more, ready to pounce. The ash blonde gritted his teeth as he glared up at him, sparklers coming from his palms. TCH like hell I'm gonna get killed by trash like you? Katsuki snarled as every muscle in his body was ready to fight. Perfect. I like a skin suit with some fire, the sludge villain says as he smiles widely, his rotten teeth making the blonde make a small grimace of disgust. Oh don't worry, you will get used to this once you are rotting from the inside, I don't need your organs anyway. The living sludge shouted as he rushed towards the blonde with crazy vigor. Die, sheet stain. Katsuki shouted as he charged towards two, his palms growing with explosive force, and then, yen 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 yen. With Izuku. All Might landed on the rooftop of a building with Izuku still shakily a little. The boy was lucky that he didn't have a fear of heights. We are on solid ground, kid, you can let go now. All Might's voice snapped him out of his dazed state, making him notice that they indeed were on a building rooftop. After blinking 2 times, he quickly let go of the hero, backing away from him while looking down with anxiety overpowering any excitement. He just realized what he did, and if he could be more on edge, he would be dead right now from high blood pressure. Step. Clear throat as much as I love my fans, that was a very dangerous thing to do, you could have hurt yourself, the number 1 hero scolded with a more stern tone. The friendly tint was still present, at least managing to not make the boy panic even more. This made the greenette's eyes widen a bit, he bit his lips to not yelp and give more hints that he was scared. He knew he swore up big time. He then bowed in apology, refusing to look up. I'm so sorry, Mr. All Might. I wanted to attract your attention but I messed up. I'm so sorry for wasting your time, but please I wanted to ask you something, he said while nervous as he tried to be as respectful as possible, not wanting to upset the hero even more. The hero raises an eyebrow a bit puzzled, he thought that grabbing his leg and risking dying for a question was a bit too much, but at this point, better give him what he want. He didn't notice that a bit of steam was starting to erupt from his skin. Well, you could have asked me before I jumped and avoided risking turning yourself into a pancake, which is something I crave right now because I'm starving, Sorry, got distracted he. All Might dragged his words with a slightly awkward laugh and a comical sweat drop on his head. He hadn't eaten anything all day, and the idea of stopping at a store to buy some soft pancake was making him almost destroyed stomach demand for something that it could digest, and not liquid food. His slightly more light-hearted behavior didn't seem to snap the boy from his tense state. So the hero cleared his throat and regained a more focused gaze. Ask away, kid, but please be quick, I don't want this evildoer to wake up while we chat and start cursing us out. All Might tried to joke a bit, but what he got was a little JRK from the boy's head so he could finally look up at his imposing form. The greenette's face was a mix of nervous and a bit of dulled determination. What the hero didn't know was that Izuku was internally giving himself every bit of courage he could muster. He could do it. He can do it. The green-haired boy straightened up his posture, and tried to keep eye contact as his lips parted, the words he wanted to say for so long finally having their target. I'm quirkless. Finally, Izuku managed to unstick the words from his throat and shout probably the most difficult part of his question, cutting off All Might and making his eyes widen. Wait, what? The boy doesn't let the hero ask anything as he uses the burst of courage to shout everything else while clenching his shaking fists and keeping his eyes tightly shut. Even if I'm powerless, I want to be a hero, like you. Ever since I saw your debut I wanted to be one. Everyone always mocked me and laughed when I even tried to pursue my dream, even though I've been training for the last 11 years of my life. He kept letting out his words, knowing full well he was telling more than he should, but he could hardly stop himself. The voices of everyone who mocked him and hurt him were clawing his mind as he spoke, threatening to make him shut up, but he kept talking. He took a couple of shaky deep breaths to stabilize himself, and he finally opened his eyes, looking up at the hero with a meek and hopeful gaze. I wanted to ask you if I could be a hero like you. Even while being. This, he concluded as he indicated himself with his finger, not referring only to him being quirkless, but also his look and personality, which in the green-haired boy's mind, after being insulted for so long, are the worst things around. All Might was visibly taken aback a little by his words, especially on the quirkless part. Quirkless? The number 1 hero was about to say, but he recoiled in pain as he gripped his chest with his right hand. The pain he felt before increased tenfold. His skin started to emit steam and blood started to drip from his mouth. Izuku felt his energy fluctuating and rapidly decreasing. As if he was thinking of losing his quirk as he noticed the steam on his body. What's going on with his ki? All Might? Izuku shouted in shock as unconsciously tried to step forward to help the man, but the steam completely covered his vision. Before the green-haired boy could try to call again for the hero, he heard a way less booming voice, but it was still awfully familiar. Sheet, the boy heard in front of him. He focused his gaze and managed to see a person becoming more visible as the steam settled down. When he managed to make his appearance, he was shocked. Not anymore in front of him stood the imposing All Might but a very skinny man with sharp, angular features and long limbs, with a neck long and absent eyebrows. His hair was blonde like the hero with 2 long strands coming down from his hairline and framing his face. The green-haired boy was left with his jaw almost hitting the floor watching a completely different person standing in front of him. Where was All Might? Who is this person? Wait, could he be Blurg? Oh Kami. He is puking blood. Wait. Who? Izuku started to say flabbergasted while raising his finger to point at the stranger. Who are you? Where is All Might? Izuku asked panically, who was this man? An imposter? No, impossible, he was as strong as All Might, a shape-shaping quirk? A quirk-copying one? Could it be? I assure you that I am All Might, now don't panic. The skinny man tried to calm him down as he waved his left hand in a calming way while the right was trying to wipe the blood from his mouth. Izuku made a couple of steps back with his eyes still wide in shock. He sensed the man's key, and he was right, he was All Might. He doesn't know, the dots aren't connecting. Okay, calm down. He also noticed the blood still staining the man's mouth. Against his more wary instincts, the boy took a handkerchief from his backpack and cautiously handed it to the mysterious man, who blinked a couple of times in slight surprise, but then accepted it. Ah, thank you, kid, he thanked as he used the handkerchief to finish cleaning his mouth, putting it aside after he was done. When he looked back at the cautious boy, he noticed that he was gazing at him with an intense stare. Why are you like this? He asked nervously. Even if quirks can do many things, this wasn't natural, especially with the way he kept clenching his chest. The man cleared his throat as he straightened his posture. At this point, the boy already found him, better answer what he could. Well, you know how guys at the pool are always suckin' in and flexin' and tryin' look buff, duh. All Might explained as a mental image of a man trying to hide their belly by skiing air appeared in Izuku's head. The boy nodded. I'm like that, he concluded as his left hand reached for the hem of his shirt, and before Izuku could ask himself what he was doing, the man raised his shirt enough for the greenette to see his torso, and what he saw shocked him to the core. See this nice scar? He continued as he sat up close to the railing. He noticed that the boy's face paled when he saw the big scar that covered most of the left side of the man's chest. It looked painful, like someone literally tried to pierce him from one side to another, and almost succeeded. Izuku sensed the massive drain in All Might's ki right in the center of the scar. His energy was fluctuating so much that he couldn't hold it for a very long time. Pretty gross, right? I got this in a big fight 5 years back. My respiratory system was destroyed. I lost my whole stomach. All the surgeries have pretty much worn me out. And it can't be fixed. Right now, I can only do hero work for about 3 hours a day. Rest of the time, this is what I look like, All Might explained as he indicated himself. He didn't expect today's hero time to end with him telling a random kid about his fight and scar. What a day. Who did this? Izuku was fearful to ask, but he still did. Who could do such damage to the number one hero, said by many to be invincible? It sent chills in his spine thinking that someone that could do something like this existed. At this All Might shook his head in negation, looking up at him with a serious gaze, his blue irises staring at his green ones. You better not know. Most of the world has never heard of this fight and it should remain this way. I did everything I could to keep it under wraps. They can't know that I'm this fragile man, puking blood and barely able to lift my arms. I'm supposed to be the guy who's always smiling, right? The symbol of peace who saves people with a smile. Absolutely can't afford to bow to the forces of evil. But honestly, I smile to hide the fear inside. It's just a brave face I put on when the pressure is high. The man explained with a tint of melancholy, looking up at the sky with squinted eyes. He then took a small sigh and looked down at the shocked boy once again. Sigh at SCKS, to be honest, but it's my duty, I can't slow down because of a small scar and some blood. Many rely on me and other heroes, even the less famous ones. He continued as his eyes squinted a bit, showing that he was serious. This made the boy tense, wondering where the man was going with this. This is why I cannot tell you that you should become a hero. All Might says with a bit of regret, which increases when he notices the boy completely going stiff from the shock, his face looking like his breath was cut away from the words. With another sigh, the hero looked down. There are few quirkless people left in the population, and he hoped he never got to do something like this to one of them, especially considering that one of them is a person dear to him like a niece, but she got strength from her doubts and the support of a few others. This boy was alone. And he was going to say no to him. I have been a hero for a long time and I fought every kind of villain from the most bloodthirsty one to the sneakiest one. I know what they are capable of. And many wouldn't hesitate to kill you. I saw villains move so fast that only I was capable of keeping up. Villains that made support equipment useless. Villains that reduced buildings to rubles without batting a sweat. All Might explained as steadily and clearly as possible even if he felt guilty while doing so. The boy didn't say anything as he listened with increasing sadness being evident. The more he spoke, the more the boy's eyes became dull and the more his posture worsened. I saw many heroes die. They were killed before I could even breathe their way. Some had remarkable power and skills, but it wasn't enough. He continued with a grim stare. Some of the heroes that died directly worked with him in the past. It devoured him from the inside, thinking back at him not being there where they needed him. No matter how much he strained himself, he was never fast enough. He raised his gaze once again, seeing that the greenette probably figured out where the conversation was going. I cannot tell you to not try it. Maybe you can manage to become one, but, trust me, hero work isn't jokes and laughs. It's pretty cold and merciless if you ask me. I'm saying all of this because I'm a hero. So I need to tell you what I can to save you from putting yourself in harm's way. You could find other ways to help. You become a policeman, a doctor, or a firefighter. There are many ways to help, just not this one. So I am sorry for not giving you what you wanted. This is what you will get from this old man, the number one hero concluded as he indicated himself. He immediately saw that the last word was the last nail in the coffin that completely drained the light from the boy's eyes, who just stood there, silently staring at the hero, until he slowly looked down, his hands shaking. "I.C" was the boy's only answer. His voice was disappointed or saddened. He expected this to happen. At All Might wasn't so harsh. It still really hurts. But this wasn't going to stop him. To him this was just one more person he had to prove wrong. "I'm sorry if this wasn't what you expected to hear. I think it's time for you to go home. Come, I will drop you at your address before I take the villain to the station." All Might was about to say, already preparing to turn into his buff form once again, but he stopped once he felt that something was wrong when he painted the spot where the bottle was supposed to be. Keyword, supposed. "It's gone!" he shouted, shocked, making the boy flinch and immediately look at the same spot with wide eyes. The bottle was gone, the villain with it. Before All Might could search for it, something rampaged in the distance. Boom! A big explosion made their eardrums shake as they hastily turned their gazes in the direction it came from, just in time to see a huge mass of smoke and flames in the distance. "Oh no!" All Might thought with wide eyes. "It can't be a coincidence. Wait, those explosions." Izuku thought as he realized that the sound and strength of that explosion were familiar. He sensed a key that made his eyes widen. From what he felt, he exactly knew who it was. Both their sentences were cut off by another big explosion, soon followed by more. The boy recovered first from the powerful sound. He looked down at the stairs with a puzzled look. "I can't be here. I need to see," Izuku muttered loud enough for the man to hear him, and before he could stop him, he ran down the stairs towards the site of those explosions, leaving the hero behind. "Wait, young man!" All Might shouted as he chased after him, having already a bad feeling about the greenette suddenly running towards a dangerous location. The explosions became louder and louder as Izuku rushed, with his heart hammering in his chest and his energy started pulsing from his core. He didn't even know why he was running towards a dangerous area just after All Might told him that he shouldn't be a hero. Speaking of the hero, he was trying to keep up with the surprisingly fast boy. He was actually pretty quick in his steps. The man was about to yell another time for the boy to stop or at least slow down, but he stopped once he saw that they arrived at the site of the attack. Both immediately noticed the large crowd watching the heroes trying to subdue a villain, but the line of sight was obscured from Izuku's point of view because of his small stature. But All Might saw who the villain was, and his stomach dropped. It was the same Sludge villain, and, to the hero's horror, he had a hostage. All Might quickly noticed that the heroes on the scene were having difficulty because of both the liquid body of the villain and the rampaging quirk of the hostage, who was trying to free himself from the sludge, but what he achieved was slowing down the takeover of his body and unfortunately making things even more difficult for the heroes. Yen. Meanwhile, Izuku managed to squeeze between the group of people, ignoring their curious looks as he finally managed to get a clear sight. He quickly noticed some heroes he already seen the same day: Death Arms, Kamui Woods, and Backdraft. There were also other heroes that he didn't have the chance to see in action. All of them were trying to rescue the hostage and control the damage, but explosions and flames are not my cup of tea. I give my place to someone else this time. Kamui Woods shouted as he used his wood tendrils to take civilians out of the danger zone while hastily preventing the flames and debris from hitting him. Backdraft made water erupt from his hands, extinguishing as much fire as possible to allow the wood hero to get the civilians to safety while doing his best to avoid the fire from spreading. "Don't look at me. I've got my hands full here. Where are those fire trucks?" The firefighter hero grunted as he aimed his hose spigots and generated as much water as possible to fight the rampaging fire. The multiple explosions just made his job difficult as the new fire replaced the one he already dealt with. He then turned his head slightly to look at a male hero to his right. "Can you guys get to him?" he asked as he kept his attention split to not lose track of the fire. "No, can't get a grip on his weird body. Plus, that kid's quirk's causing explosions left and right. This is a mess," the other hero replied with frustration. This situation was getting worse as time went on. The villain was getting more unstable and aggressive while the boy was getting more desperate and increasing his explosion strength and quantity. Yen 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 yen. Meanwhile, the crowd was watching with held breaths. They couldn't believe a villain was giving that much trouble to so many heroes. This dude is a legit supervillain. The heroes can't even get close, a man commented with a bit of sweat dripping from the side of his head. Wasn't he the villain All Might was chasing after? A young woman added as she remembered seeing the number one hero himself chasing after the villain. He was so cool and those muscles were godly. Wait, do you mean All Might is here? A middle-aged guy gasped as he looked at the woman of before with wide eyes. If this villain is still walking freely, does this mean All Might was defeated? Another man pondered with a slightly uncomfortable expression. No, it can't be that the symbol of peace is defeated, he is invincible. Go, heroes! Some spectators ignored the conversations and tried to cheer for the heroes, not noticing how both All Might and Izuku's gazes dropped when they heard people mentioning the number one hero, the first because of self-loathing, the second because of the immense guilt he felt. The crowd conversations and cheering were cut off once they all noticed a growing shadow hovering above the man. Thump! A mighty step that shook the ground was the next thing that preceded the entrance of the rookie heroine, MT Lady, who immediately tried to squeeze into the alley in her giant mode, but after failing to do so, she blinked a couple of times and then a shocked and slightly panicked look replaced her more confident expression. She couldn't enter the zone because she was too big to fit in. It's too narrow for me. Growling, come here, you smelly puddle. She shouted frustrated as she at least managed to fit her right arm in the alley and quickly extended it towards the villain with the plan of grabbing him with her giant hand and ripping the hostage away from the living mass of sludge. But before she could succeed in her action, boom! Another big explosion rampaged from the hostage's palm, hitting the heroine's hand directly and causing burning debris to fall on it and her arm, making her instinctively recoil. Ow! It burns. Hey kid, stop using your quirk. I can't grab you if you keep blowing things up. The heroine hissed with an even more frustrated expression as she held her now smoking hand with the other. She almost had him, damn it. I don't need anyone. The hostage spat like burning venom as he struggled against the villain's hold and managed to get a bit of his body out, making some of his features visible, shocking Izuku, whose eyes widened in slight horror. Bakugo, that idiot. Izuku thought, shocked as his senses confirmed it, his abuser was the one that was caught by the villain. And even worse, a small and hated part of him started to knock on his mind, dark thoughts flowing in. He tried to ignore them as much as he could while he watched the heroes trying to save the day. He saw Death Arms duck under a tendril strike. The hero charged forward immediately and tried to hit the villain, but his strong punches only passed through the sludge's body without apparent effect. It's no good. None of us have the right quirks to stop a villain like this. We OF dash. He cursed as he hastily backed away just in time to see a big sludge hand crush the spot he was before. He then created some distance and joined the other heroes. And the number of people to save just keep increasing. This crisis is becoming too much for us to handle, Backdraft replied as he created another burst of water to extinguish another blaze. What we can do is to reduce the damage until someone with the right powers shows up. Every hero of the city is most likely on their way, a male hero added as he took some ragged deep breaths, the hot temperature and smoke making it hard for him to breathe. The Greenette kept watching as all attempts were made useless by the villain or by Katsuki continuing to create dangerous explosions because of his adrenaline and survival instincts. He didn't know what to think or do. The ash blonde always hurt him, and today was not better. But then he realized something. His face paled quickly as he did so. All Might had him captured in his pocket. If he is free right now, it is because I grabbed his leg. Everything that is happening here is my fault. He thought as his right hand instinctively cupped his mouth. His eyes shook as he was quickly overwhelmed by guilt. All this destruction was because he wanted a stupid yes from All Might. I must have dropped him in the air because I was distracted from worrying about my time limit. I can't believe I made such a rookie mistake, and after lecturing that kid about being a hero. I'm pathetic, All Might thought as his eyes widened, guilt forming in his scarred guts. He couldn't believe he made such a mistake and allowed all of this to happen. All Might can't power up because I wasted his time and energy. What have I done? Izuku just gripped his fist in guilt and frustration. My master would be disappointed, I'm so pathetic. All Might thought as he clenched his chest in pain, trying to force his quirk to activate, but his body was just too drained. He is gonna die because of me, Izuku thought as he raised his eyes to look as the villain kept slowly succeeding in suffocating the ash blonde. His hands were shaking, no, his whole body was shaking. If anyone didn't do something, he could feel his Bakugo's ki fading fast. He is gonna die. I'm not a real hero, All Might thought as he coughed some blood, having to put his hand on the light pole to not fall because of the overexertion. I can't just, Izuku thought as he used his ki to concentrate on his spirit energy throughout his body, his signature milky teal aura surrounding himself. He then saw the villain starting to sadically cackle. You've got so much power, kid, I hit the jackpot with you. With a quirk like yours under my control, I can take All Might down with one punch. Shame you being alive is incompatible with my plans, well, a shame for you at least. He, the villain said with sadic glee in his voice. The hold he had on the situation was feeding his ego and confidence. This made everyone that was watching feel a chill run up their spines. They saw Katsuki growing weaker in his struggle, indicating he was close to fainting because of the lack of oxygen. For a moment, a desperate glint appeared in his usually angry and confident eyes. Time seemed to slow down for Izuku, his eyes as wide as they could be. Sounds became dull. Guilt, fear, and a strange determination fused and made him take a step forward, then another, and before he could realize what he was doing he had one thought in his mind. Save him. A notebook fell on the floor and the greenette was seen rushing forward, a dazed expression on his face. His brain was still trying to catch up with what his body was doing. Everyone was completely shocked as they saw the green-haired boy climb over the security barricades and rush towards the villain seemingly without a care. What are you doing, kid? Stop. You're gonna get yourself killed. Kamui Woods shouted as he immediately tried to send a tendril after him to grab him, but an inflamed piece of the railing dropped, cutting his reach. Do you have a death wish? Come back here. Death Arms shouted as he charged ahead and lifted the dropped pieces of the railing, but the boy was already too far for them to rush safely. Damn it. What is his deal? The hero's attention was directed when he felt the ground shake a moment and a large hand hovering above him in the direction of the rushing boy. Stop running, you idiot. It's suicide. Stand still, MT Lady says loudly with frustration while she tries to do the same thing as before but this time aimed at the greenette so she can avoid him getting himself killed. Unfortunately, the poor state of the buildings made her way even more narrow, so she got stuck just inches away from saving that suicidal imbecile. What all the heroes and spectators didn't know was that Izuku just ignored them. His mind started barely working immediately after MT Lady attempted to grab him. The boy was panicking, the pain of his already injured body, the overwhelming heat of the surroundings, and the lack of oxygen caused by the fire was making him lightheaded. Okay, calm down, you got this, Yugothisia goddess, Izuku thought while covered in his spirit energy, making sure he didn't pass out from the lack of oxygen. Alright, no more hiding anymore, Izuku thought as he raised his eyes to see the villain. Like an electric shock, his eyes focused on two details about the villain, the teeth and the eyes. They didn't change shape at all during the attack, so they aren't liquid. It's probably a weak point if I can hit there. Izuku thought as his brain shifted to think of a way to do something about the villain. Another idea shocked his mind as he thought of one of his techniques that. Okay, Izuku, you can do it. Do something right in your life, save someone. This is all your fault, accept responsibility. Izuku thought as he gathered his energy into his palm. At the center an aquagreen spark of energy started forming, getting bigger and brighter. Rushing towards the villain once again, the living Sludge finally noticed him and grinned. Look who's back. Unfortunately, I don't need you anymore, so do me a favor and die, you good for nothing. The villain shouted as he forced Katsuki's arm to aim his palm towards the quickly approaching boy and instinctively released an explosion that rampaged forward. The green-haired boy used his ki to sense the attack as he ducked out of the way at the last second, the heat of the familiar explosions causing nothing to him, and he resumed running. His heartbeat was one of the only things he could hear together with the voices of the many people that mocked him during his awful life. They told him that no one would miss him, that he would be better off dead and he couldn't be a hero. But at the moment no more playing around the weakling, shy, stuttering, scared quirkless child anymore. From this point, he was going to show everyone the real Izuku Fing Midoriya. Izuku sensed another attack and swiftly dodged a tendril that was about to maul him into a bloody pulp. He just kept running to Bakugo, getting closer and closer. The villain's eyes squinted in fury as he decided to stop playing and directly pass to the slaughter. That's it. I'm gonna eat you alive, you lucky bstrd. He shouted as he sent his head straight towards the boy, his liquid body stretching to give it a snake-like form as he was ready to tear the annoying boy apart. Izuku's eyes narrowed seeing the villain directly charging at him. He smirked at this. He remembered a subject he studied came to mind. Momentum. I can't hit him in the body, but nobody said anything about the eyes. Okay, here it goes, I will show everyone what I got. Izuku thought with a blazing determination burning in his soul. The boy leaped into the air. The energy was gathered enough in his palm that it was pulsing intensely. Hey big booger. Izuku yelled as the sludge villain growled at the comment. Check this out, Spirit Sword. VHMMM. Izuku then conjured up a aqua-green color sword out of pure energy which shocked not only the villain, heroes, and bystanders, but mostly Bakugo and All Might. Knowing that both of them knew that he was quirkless. The boy Deku has a quirk? Eat. MYYYY. Energy eye. The boy brought his hands together at the hilt and swung the sword downwards at the villain's eye, causing him to screech in pain and slow down enough for Izuku to put himself into position. UFING I will murder you as painful as Posib dash. The Sludge villain was about to curse, but when he opened his left eye, he saw that the boy raised the energy blade while staring at him with a dangerously determined gaze. The villain tried to stop, but he was already too close. His teeth were clenched together instinctively, and this was a fatal mistake because vrow, vrow. Izuku used all his strength given by his adrenaline-filled body to swing his sword directly to the villain's teeth, cracking them thanks to the villain's momentum, stunning him. He hit him. One of the heroes gasped but then shook his head as he, Kamui Woods, and some others rushed towards the three, hopeful to save both the hostage and the kid that gave them the opening. The green-haired boy made his blade disappear. He immediately turned towards the main body and rushed, finally getting in front of the trapped Katsuki, and pulling him out. As Izuku pulled him out, the ash blonde was free from the sludge, immediately taking deep breaths and then looking down at the panicking greenette with disbelief. What are you doing here? Are you FING Insen dash? Katsuki was about to snap at him, but, to his shock, Izuku interrupted him with a punch on his cheek, which ironically made his dazed brain wake up immediately. I'm helping you, a-hole. I hate you with every single fiber of my being, but I can't let you die here, no matter what. That's what heroes do. Izuku shouted, loving the fact that he just punched Bakugo. He was trying to save his sorry butt. The guy who abused him for 10 years nonetheless. The shout reached the crowd and the quickly approaching heroes, earning different reactions, but the heaviest one was the number one himself, whose eyes were wide. Watching someone else throw himself in harm's way while he is here watching? Yen 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 yen. Meanwhile, Izuku freed Katsuki, channeling his spirit energy into his body. Izuku threw him over his shoulder and then blasted off to the nearest hero at inhuman speed, before safely placing Kaken on the floor behind him next to Death Arms. Watch him, Izuku said, looking at Death Arms, before racing back to the villain. The greenette exclaimed as his finger suddenly began to swell up with spirit power, signifying that he had successfully transferred all of his power to said finger, and he held his wrist as he carefully aimed right at the villain. Hey Boogerman, this is my favorite move. Hope you enjoy it. He announced before finally going in for the kill. Despite his body being made entirely out of sludge, the villain found himself visibly sweating in pure fear at his impending defeat. Sludge villain. Meet Spirit Gun. At his cry, Izuku finally fired his attack, hitting right inside his opponent's buckle activity. Eh! The moment the blast reached him, the sludge villain yelled and thrashed around in immense pain as he was violently shocked from the inside, feeling the sensation in both his interior and exterior. The light show was so intense that every onlooker at the scene had to shield their eyes, and it went on for about 15 seconds before. Splat! A loud splat was heard as the villain's body quite literally burst into multiple pieces across the area, finally indicating his defeat. By the end of the fight, everyone watching was left speechless with gobsmacked expressions on their faces. He beat him. That kid beat him. One of the onlookers uttered in disbelief. Even the heroes were useless against that guy. Yet that boy saved the other boy and beat the monster? Another one stated. For a moment, there was a continued PRD of silence. And then, everyone in the crowd started to loudly cheer for the greenette and even give him applause. All Might, on the other hand, was still astonished. Incredible. Despite knowing it was an immense risk, he immediately rushed in to save that boy because he knew it was the right thing to do. All Might mentally be praised, and to only add to his heroics, he succeeded in where the pros failed and single-handedly stopped the villain for the second time. Without him realizing it, a wide grin grew on the hero's slim face. Young Midoriya. After what I've witnessed today, there's no mistaking it. He concluded, you are just the one I've been searching for. Yen 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 yen. Meanwhile, the aforementioned had fallen to one knee, taking a breather to recover from using up most of his spirit energy. He panted for a bit before grinning in triumph. Me 1, Boo German, 0. He remarked. It was then that the sound of applause suddenly registered in the teen's ears and he looked up to be met with the fervent cheering of the crowd. Way to go, broccoli-haired kid. Yeah. You kicked that villain's slimy butt. You're a real hero in my eyes. Izuku was taken aback by the profound praises aimed at him as he wasn't exactly expecting it. Although he couldn't lie. It felt cool. He simply grinned and shot them a peace sign, making them cheer even harder. Looks like everything worked out in the E. Hey, kid. The teen jumped at the sudden call-out and he whipped around only to see a ticked-off, a displeased Kamui Woods, and an oddly neutral Death Arms approaching him. Oh? He uttered with a nervous sweat drop. That was completely, utterly reckless. What on God's green earth were you thinking, you idiot? Kamui Woods immediately chided. Izuku immediately squirmed at the harsh reprimand. All of his bravado from earlier had vanished in an instant. Well, I was just trying to dash. To steal the show? To get the spotlight for yourself? MT Lady interjected, well congrats on getting your 15 minutes of fame, kid. Wah, no. Izuku immediately refuted, that's not it at all. I just wanted to he dash. Save it. Kamui Woods shut him down, you think just because you got lucky with that villain, you're exempt from the law? That's not how the real world works. Surprisingly, Death Arms wasn't joining in on the verbal assault on the teenager. If you really want to get fame and glory, then wait until you become a real hero, brat. MT Lady chastised. Yeah. Besides, we had the entire situation under control. Kamui Wood stated, we didn't need your help. The moment he uttered those words, the timid Greenette suddenly froze with a blank expression. He didn't just say what he thought he just did he? Whoa, slow down a minute. Izuku suddenly spoke up with outstretched hands, did you just say, under control? So not only are you dumb but you're also deaf? Kamui Woods harshly asked, that's exactly what I say dash. Under control? Under control? Izuku repeated incredulously, you friggin' wooden-headed a-hole. The sudden insult shocked all three pros to the extent that they jolted back. In what universe could any of what you dummies did there be considered as having things under control? He questioned with narrowed eyes, you all literally just stood there while an active villain caused mayhem with a teenager in his clutches. And, you didn't need my help? He intentionally repeated in quotes, gee, that sure is a nice way to thank the guy who just did 90% of your job for you. The heroes were stunned by his sudden outburst, although it didn't mean Kamui was just gonna let him tear into them. Hey now dash. No, just shut your trap. The Greenette immediately shut him down, you guys have zero right to lecture me. Especially when your unwillingness to act almost led to the death of a minor. Hey come on now, that's not fair. MT Lady tried to refute, we just didn't have the right queer dash. Don't even try to pull that crap, cause I can think of like 1,000 ways you could have immobilized that guy with your ostensibly wrong quirks. Izuku deadpanned. And how do you suggest we could have stopped him, smart guy? Kamui questioned. Well, Mr. Woody, if you must know. You could have easily caught the villain off guard by creating some branches and hitting him in the eyes with them since they were his weak points. Then, Death Arms could have instantly used that chance to swoop in and remove the hostage from his restraints. The teen gladly broke it down for them. And then, get this. He spoke as if he was about to make a grand revelation. That's when you, Ms. Fifo Fum, could have just shrunk yourself back to normal. Entered the street. Grown big again. Then squashed the villain into a sludge pancake. I don't know why you didn't do that in the first place when you showed up, but I guess basic common sense is just too much to ask for these days, huh? He mockingly remarked. His simple yet effective solution left the heroes utterly dumbfounded as they realized no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't poke any holes in it. Oh, and get this kid is quirkless, so basically a quirkless kid just did your job for you, ha ha ha. Izuku pointed to himself while laughing as the three pros, everyone's eyes widened. That kid's quirkless. What the hell? That's impossible. There are still quirkless people in Japan. How embarrassing was it that a middle schooler was able to come up with a better solution than supposedly trained professionals? MT Lady tried to speak up again despite her bewilderment. You know, it's funny. The Greenette chuckled for some odd reason. When I saw that giant debut you made, there was already something about your vibe that rubbed me the wrong way. But your first reaction to me saving a helpless victim being accused me of wanting to hog the spotlight tells me everything I need to know. He referred to MT Lady specifically, you're more of a giant unashamed glory hound than you are a hero. His words appeared to cut deep as they caused the giantess hero to widen her eyes before looking down in apparent shame. Izuku couldn't help but scoff, and these were the hot new heroes on the scene that people were hyping up so much? Some stuck-up JRKs who were so heroically inept that a child had to step in and do their job. He rhetorically asked. Gee, Snotty was right. You guys are incompetent numbskulls. He referred to the sludge villain's earlier insult. What was that? Kamui Woods was the only one who appeared to be offended. Listen here you little dash. A muscular arm halted him from stepping forward. Just let it go, Kamui. Death Arms instructed, we both know the kid's not wrong. The wooden hero was about to protest, but he begrudgingly backed down with a sigh as he knew couldn't argue against his claim. With Kamui pacified, the muscular hero looked back at a surprised Izuku. "You've done plenty enough to help us out, kid. We'll take things from here," he stated. "For now, you should head home. It's pretty late." Why yeah, okay." The teen awkwardly nodded. "I'll do just that. Oh, and make sure not to leave out a single speck of him. He's pretty slippery," he cautioned. "Noted. Now go on, kid." With his warning heeded, the teen turned around and began to walk away. "Oh, and, kid." He turned back around at Death Arms calling in curiosity, only to be met with a smile and thumbs up from the muscular hero. "Thanks." The greenette was greatly caught off guard as he honestly wasn't expecting the act of gratitude, especially after he just chewed the hero and his allies out. Although, it didn't change the fact that it felt nice to receive an official thanks for his help. He brightly grinned and shot the pro a thumbs up before finally walking off. The pros watched as he was stopped by nearby paramedics who wanted to check him for any injuries, which he had no problem complying with. It was clear from the demeanor of the three pros that Izuku's words had gotten to them, and they had a lot to think about. Yen 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 yen. Izuku was now heading home after a crazy day had it been on today, from almost getting from a villain, meeting All Might, saving his abuser, taking down the same villain, and talking smack to those pros. Yet today was a crazy day. His pace stopped when he heard quick footsteps approaching from behind. He sensed the familiar key and turned his head nonchalantly to look behind and see Katsuki quickly running after him. "Deku!" Katsuki breathed out as he stopped some meters away from him. The ash blonde seemed out of breath. After regaining a more steady breathing, he looked up at the greenette with a set-off glare, making him take a couple of steps back. Don't think for a second he shouted, but, bang! A spirit bullet hit the ground right in front of Bakugo, stopping mid-sentence. Looking in front of him, Izuku pointing at him with a charged spirit gun ready to fire with the signature constant rising beeping noise behind. "Bakugo." Izuku spoke in a cold and deadly voice that made the blonde flinch and have a cold sweat. What is this? This, no way, I'm afraid of this quirkless sheet," gritting his teeth, but for some odd reason he stopped himself as if his body was being controlled. He then, before turning around and walked away, an angry aura around him. Izuku stared at the leaving ash blonde powering down and sighed. That was something," Izuku muttered to himself, not quite understanding why the blonde wanted to say this to him so much. The boy looked down at his gaze once again. That guy seriously needs to get in, but whooping, Izuku thought. He then sighed in and turned around to resume walking home, but then Izuku sensed another key signature and smirked. "I'm here!" All Might shout as he suddenly appears from the intersection, which didn't even spook Izuku since he sensed him. "All Might? What are you doing here? And should you really be in that form now?" Izuku asked as soon as saw the hero, confused as to why he was here in the first place. Was he going to scold him? He should. The hero laughed a bit. "I stand for justice. Not soundbites. Because I am all MIA," he tried to say, but then vapor started coming out of his skin and then he suddenly deflated again to that sicky-looking form that he turned before on the rooftop. He hunched over and started to cough a bit. Izuku instinctively got closer, wanting to help the man, but stopped when All Might raised his hand to block him and made a sign to wait a moment. After coughing some blood, the number one hero took a deep breath and looked at the boy again. "Sorry about that, it's not the best of sights. Now that you asked me why I was here. Well, young man, I came here to thank you and also to discuss your question from earlier," All Might said seriously as he straightened his back once again. What? Izuku gasped with surprise. He wanted to talk again about the question. "Why? If you hadn't told me about your life. If you hadn't run into that fight. I would have been a worthless bystander watching from the crowd. What you did inspired me. You saved that person and me," All Might explained as his eyes squinted a bit, and his voice was unwavering, showing he was dead serious in his claim. Immediately the boy's eyes widened like plates. No, he couldn't accept this. All Might be saved the day, not him. He hasn't inspired him. Meanwhile, the only thing he did was ruin everything. "No, All Might, I just got in the way of the heroes." Izuku tried to argue, but he was cut off. "I'm not done. Apparently that question wasn't supposed to be answered by me. You answered it yourself when you threw yourself into the fray. I noticed your look when you did. You weren't thinking, were you? Every great hero has this thing in common, their bodies move by themselves. Did you feel it too? That need to act, even if you weren't enough?" All Might be asked seriously as the wind started to blow, moving his hair. Izuku couldn't say anything, just nod as tears streamed down his cheeks. He didn't know why he was crying once again, but these words were making him struggle to keep his emotions in check, maybe because he was getting praised, not mocked. Suddenly, the young man heard the sentence that he wanted to hear all his life. Young man, I can say with certainty that you can be a hero, the hero declared, his eyes shining with a piercing blue glint. Izuku's eyes widened as his pupils shirked, and his legs shook for a moment, feeling weak in his knees. Fresh tears were dripping from his still wide eyes as he looked down. He said it. He told him that he could be a hero. The boy remembered how everyone always mocked him for his dream, but their insults couldn't do anything to cover this single sentence. The sun's rays hit both as the hero at the crying teen. I deem you worthy of my quirk, he says. What? Izuku muttered in disbelief, his eyes regained focus as he looked at the hero in surprise. Izuku was in complete disbelief at what he just heard. This day was just getting crazier and crazier. First, he was almost killed by a villain, saved by All Might, and almost got himself killed once again to try to save one of the people he hates most, and now he was being told that he was worthy of a quirk, All Might quirk. What do you mean worthy of your quirk? Mr. All Might, don't you understand? Izuku stuttered, very confused. What was the hero talking about? The boy thought that maybe he hit his head during the incident and was hearing things. Journalists always guess my quirk is super strength or some invulnerability. And when people ask in interviews, I always make a joke and dodge the question. That's because the world needs to believe that their symbol of peace is just a natural-born hero like any of them, but I'm not. All Might started to explain as he put a fist in front of him and clenched it. Some yellow lighting bolts surrounded it, making Izuku's eyes widen. The truth is something else. There's nothing natural about my ability. I wasn't born with this power. It's a sacred torch that was passed on to me from someone else, All Might explained seriously. A quirk that can be passed to others. I don't know what to think. This is a lot to process. There's indeed a lot of debate about the idea of passing on a quirk or inheriting it, but it was never confirmed. And now being told that a quirk like this exists, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I always thought that powers are supposed to be unique to each individual. I mean, since the first superpowers, no one's ever been able just to give someone else their power like an object. That's crazy. If this is true, it would cause us to rethink everything we know about quirks, to begin with. Izuku continued to explain, his eyes quickly shaking as he was completely taken over by his more analytical side. It was always suppressed to avoid bringing unwanted attention, but now it was completely brought out. The hero was taken aback by the sudden change in behavior of the boy. Wow, he sure knew a lot. To be honest, he was a bit overwhelmed by the quick and unending muttering of the boy. Sounds like you're overthinking this whole inheriting thing a bit too much, young man. All Might says as he sweat dropped. Stop nerdin' out. He blurted out. This caused Izuku to stop in his tracks and cover his mouth, realizing that he just cut off his hero. I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you, Izuku said as he bowed in apology. Hey, it's okay, calm down. But now you'll have to adjust your reality and accept this new truth. I can transfer my quirk to someone else. And that's just one facet of my secret abilities, and it can be transferred to you. All Might says as he indicates Izuku with one of his hand. The hero then moved his hand and opened it with his palm facing up, and in the hero's eyes, a multicolored star formed on it. The true name of my power is One for All. All Might declared as his eyes narrowed seriously, and the star increased in brightness. 1. 4. All, repeated Izuku in awe. One person improves the power then hands it off to another person, allowing it to grow further as it's passed along. It's this cultivated power that allows me to save those who require a hero. The quirk becomes stronger and stronger as it is passed. All Might be continued as he clenched his fist. I am the 8th, before receiving this power, I was quirkless like you, my boy, All Might concluded as he indicated himself. At this, the boy's eyes widened like plates. Quirkless? That's why you said you understood how I felt? You were like me? Izuku asked, shocked. Correct, that's why my answer when we were on the roof was atrocious for me to tell you. It was like I told me of the past, that quirkless guy who wanted to make sure that anyone could smile without fear, that he had to abandon his dreams, says All Might with a little guilt in his voice. I wouldn't have blamed you, Mr. All Might, it's not the first time I've heard it anyway, Izuku replies, lowering his voice a lot for the second part. All Might have heard him anyway and his desire to make the offer increases even more. Young man, can I ask for your name? All Might asked as he crouched down a bit, getting on eye level with the boy, who was still on his knees. Izuku Midoriya, Mr. Izuku replied nervously. Young Midoriya, you need to know that I was on a long hunt for a worthy successor. And then, I watched you jump into action as the rest of us stood idly by. You may be a quirkless boy. But you tried to save that kid, you acted like a hero, in the face of certain death, you tried to do the right thing. For this I deem you worthy of this quirk, of being the next bearer of OFA, All Might declared, exposing his intention. The boy stared at the hero with complete disbelief. He couldn't believe that he was offering something so precious to someone like him. But then he thought about something, all the training he put into HRNSS, his ki and spirit energy, from all the people making fun of him for his dream, from the constant bullying from his peers and Bakugo, to the many scars, he had to either have to heal them or hide from everyone. Having trust issues with adults other than his mother. Hiding who he is just because of something that wasn't like everyone else. He was like a caged bird that wanted freedom. Was he just going to throw all of that to fit in with others? But there is also the fact that there might be some things that spirit energy can't do alone. He knows that spirit energy can reach limitless highs with proper training. Then that power goes beyond spirit energy, but there might be powers that even go beyond that. Then I was thinking about how the symbol of peace's time limit must be looking for someone to pass on the quirk. The boy looked down at the floor and thought of the many possibilities of him accepting the quirk or not. Then after a second or two he made his decision. All Might, I don't think it should be me. All Might, I want to be a hero with my power. Plus I bet there are surely so many better candidates than me. Izuku started to say, shocking the pro this answer, but the boy did have a point. There were many different others who he could choose to be his successor. He just knew that his time was spilling as the symbol of peace. Izuku continued, not giving the hero the time to say something. Before encountering you. I've been training for 10 whole years to be a hero? Sighs ever since I found out that I was quirkless and I wanted to be a hero. I've been tormented, bullied, picked, heck even beaten to the point where I hung by the neck for a few seconds. Izuku says while laughing, while slightly touching his face with only the tips of his fingers. He then releases a trick with his spirit energy that he learned when he was younger. All Might's eyes widen at Izuku's new appearance. He has 2 scars on him, one being a large scar on his face, starting from the left side of his forehead, forking out in the middle, and finishing underneath both of his eyes, and other a very visible zigzag scar on his neck that extends across his throat. To say the least, horrified was an understatement. All Might know the population of quirkless people was low in Japan and some were bullied, but he would never have thought it was this horrible. What kind of personal monster would do such a thing? Horrible, right? Well, that's just on my face and neck. They're more on my body, but that's not important, right? What is important is that I have been beaten, tortured, tormented, neglected. I've trained through hell and back just to get where I am now. So do you believe that? Absolutely. And I must say, young man, that yours is a beautiful dream. It fits a future hero, a great hero. All Might kindly, still smiling at him. It was calming. Izuku was left completely shocked by this. Not only the hero didn't laugh, he praised him. And why his body wasn't shivering as much as before at the hand on his shoulder and the one still ruffling his hair. It was like, the hero was sincere at 100%, he felt in his ki that he could trust him. I know I've put a lot of pressure on you with my offer. And I understand taking my quirk goes against your goal. But believe me when I tell you that I find you the most deserving person to receive my quirk. What you said is true. There are a lot of perfect candidates who have heroic hearts just like yours, All Might continued. Then you can give it to the... Tries to say Izuku, but All Might cut him off. This is the point. I don't want just a successor, I want you to be my successor. I want to help you in your dream, but like I said before, I'm not going to force this on you. If you do still refuse, then I will respect your decision, but then be that as it may, I will make sure I do everything in my power to make sure the ones who did this to you are punished. No one should ever have to face what you did. If you let me, of course. All Might interrupts him. Izuku was left in a daze. All Might truly wanted to pass his quirk to him. He didn't do anything but almost get himself killed, and what happened after that was just luck. But then thinks back to the first time he unlocked his spirit energy, the first he used his spirit gun, the sensation, the feeling it made him alive. Izuku then steps back to confuse the hero. Izuku then looks up with a confident look filled with determination, strength, and power. I'm sorry, All Might, but I'm still going to have to refuse your offer because I made a promise. Izuku answers, I promise? All Might asked in confusion. Izuku then pointed his thumb at his chest. I promise that I'm going to show everyone, even you, that quirkless people can be heroes, to show everyone that the quirk doesn't make the hero, but the person. That with hard work and training, people can swear to new heights. That is my goal. Izuku finishing his speech as his spirit energy was flowing around him, showing the depth and power of his resolve. All Might was surprised at the boy's conviction. He was impressed that the boy would stay behind his goal, something he couldn't during his younger days. He was saddened that the boy's refusal, though. He would make a wonderful successor. He still respected his decision though, but there was one thing that was still on his mind before he got another word. Izuku spoke. Well, All Might, this has been interesting, but I have to get going. But here, Izuku said while throwing a flash drive at the pro before vanishing before All Might's eyes. He stood there for a minute, before taking his phone out and going through the contacts, scrolling a bit until he found the two that interested him. Time to make a call to a couple of friends. Yen 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 yen. Izuku finally got home after the craziest day of his life. He sighed and then opened the door. As soon as surpassed the doorstep, he was instantly met with a green blur that slammed on him like a rocket. He miraculously was capable of remaining on his feet. He immediately felt two arms surrounding him in a powerful hug. Izuku, finally you are here. I was so scared. The boy heard a familiar female voice and he immediately looked down, finding an attractive, slightly slender, and tall green-haired woman, his only beacon of hope. Until now. As he had too. The woman raised her gaze to look at him, showing that she was frantically crying. I saw you on the news. Why did you throw yourself in danger like that? You made me worry so much. Inko asked, very worried as she continued to cry. I am fine, Mom, calm down. But I need air, Izuku said nervously, starting to turn blue. Inko immediately lets go as Izuku breathes in some air. Gasp, sweet air. I'm sorry. Wait, are you sure that you are truly fine? How many fingers are these? Do you feel pain? Do you need to go to the hospital? Inko says frantically, as she holds her other hand in front of his face, her fingers extended. Mom. Izuku called as he softly grabbed the hand in front of his face and put the other one on it too, making the woman stop to look at him. A rare small smile was present on his face, his eyes showing love and warmth. I'm fine, I'm sorry to have made you worry so much. Izuku says calmly, making her calm down a bit, but she is still worried. The woman looked down, gazing at his hands, seeing the patch that covered the back of his left hand. They always hurt him without mercy, and no matter what she does, she can't stop anything. She can't keep him in her home forever, but he can't go outside either if he is being treated like this. She couldn't hold back the frustrated tears from dripping as she looked up at him again. Why do bad things always happen to you? Why can't they leave you alone? Why does a kind and sweet boy like you need to always suffer like this? She says very frustratedly as she tightens her hold on his hands. She can't stand all of this happening to her son. First, the remarks of the neighbors, then the abuse at school. Yes, because what they are doing to him is not bullying, is straight up abuse. She tried to change his school multiple times, but it was always the same. The police were not helping either. The school always negated everything, and in some ways, the police always sided with them. In the end, schools started to refuse to accept him, making Aldera the only available option for her son to have a degree. Even though she was ready to make him study somewhere else, he refused, preferring to suffer than bother her further. Her son looked at her sadly, his irises a bit sad, so much pain hidden in her. I don't know, but it's fine. He said after a while, making her look at him in surprise. She felt his hand squeezing hers a bit more tightly. As long as you are okay, I will be fine. I promise that everything is going to be okay from now. Things are going to change, and today was a good day. Izuku said to her, but he seemed even a bit more happy. His small smile widened even a bit. This attracted her attention and curiosity. A good day? Did something happen? Inko asked confused. Maybe he made a friend. She would love for him making finally be a real friend. Strangely, Izuku never talked about Katsuki. Her son said that the blonde was very busy and that they didn't talk a lot. It was suspicious, but even Mitsuki doesn't know why the two never meet anymore. Strange. She has a very bad feeling about this, especially considering how Izuku reacts when she asks about him. I met All Might and he signed my notebook. Cool, huh? Izuku said while pulling out his notebook and showing the autograph. Inko was surprised by this. Her son met his favorite hero and signed his notebook. She was silent for a few seconds until suddenly she took Izuku and crushed him with a hug twice as strong as before. My baby met his favorite hero. I'm so happy for you. She shouts with tears that spill like jets of water from her eyes. I can't breathe. Again, tried to say Izuku with the little air left in his body. Sorry, Inko says as she releases him. She then cleared her throat. Good, now come, dinner is almost ready. I made your favorite, but Izuku, what was that energy you used against the villain? Honey, do you have a quirk? Inko says happily with a smile, then turning into confusion as she goes to the kitchen. Izuku sighed knowing this day would come. He would have to tell his mother the truth about his powers. Sitting at the table, Inko served his son and sat in her own seat with her own food. The two ate in silence for a second before Izuku spoke, looking at his mother. Okay, Mom, so the energy that I used to defeat the villain, and what been training in for the last 10 years. Izuku started raising his hand, then pointing his finger, channeling his spirit energy into the tip as his signature contact high beeping sound was heard. Amazing here. It's called spirit energy. Yen 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 yen. Time skip. After another week had come and gone, Izuku walked to his hell of junior high school, but for some odd reason, he was able to sense multiple key signatures around the area. They were mostly calm but strong for some of them, but what was curious was that he was able to sense All Might's key. This caught his attention. Why would the symbol of peace be near his school? Who are the others? Should he just skip school? Many possibilities were making his gears grind inside the depths of his mind. So All Might decided to take action. This should be interesting. Yen 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 yen. At Aldera Junior High it was all quiet. Students were following lessons. Today it was another special lesson about the dawn of quirks. The teacher always explained how people in those times used their quirks without restraint. They were free. The students began to wonder why they had to restrain using their awesome quirks because of some stupid rule. If they want to use them, they will use them. These thoughts became stronger and stronger, just like the hate for the quirkless. For them, they were just old human-like creatures that were destined to die. The teachers made it clear, why be considered human when you don't have something so normal like a quirk? Some were very disappointed that their quirkless punching bag was not there today. Many thought of ways to make up for lost time. The extra credit for beating him was always nice to have, but it became a sport. Who cares about him in every case? He was going to be a nobody. They were going to be heroes with their awesome quirks. Unlucky for them, their little bubble was going to be shattered by cold justice. Yen 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 yen. Entrance. Behind the reception, a man was sitting and checking his computer to spend time. At a certain point he heard the entrance door being opened and then he heard a squeaky voice. Good day. Nizu says in a happy voice. He couldn't be seen from the receptionist position. The man turns his head to see three men in front of him, Naomasa and All Might in his skinny form. MHM? He muttered confused as he leaned a little forward. Now he was able to see Nizu. Hi, can we help you? The man asked. Of course you can, but where are my manners? My name is Nizu, Principal Nizu, the principal of UA. Nizu says happily. Hearing this the man was completely shocked. Oh. It's an honor. What we owe your visit, sir, the man says seemingly excitedly, but the heroes and the detective could see that nervousness was bubbling from the man. He seemed scared and nervous that Nizu was here. All Might walked forward, now beside Nizu. We want to see every teacher, student, and staff member, All Might says as his eyes frown a bit, making the man behind the reception jump a bit. The hero noticed that the man behind the reception was trying to reach his phone, surely to warn someone. Can I ask why? And who are you, sir? The receptionist said as he looked at All Might, not recognizing him. Nizu patted the hero's leg and stepped forward, attracting the receptionist's attention once again. I heard so many good things about this school. I couldn't resist the need to get to know all these future heroes and especially the amazing staff members that are making them grow into such young and strong future heroes possible. Even thought of working at UA? I need people like you all, Nizu says happily. On the inside, however, he was darkly snickering by noticing how the man's posture became relaxed and more proud. It only required some good words and now their wariness decreased a lot. Now they got them in the trap. It's so easy to manipulate such filth. We are honored by your praises, sir. I will immediately call the director. You will be amazed by our students, the receptionist says excitedly as he starts using the front desk phone to call the school principal. The four men walked away from earshot, planning how to move from there. Why do you want to bring them together in the courtyard? All Might asked as he looked at Nizu. To prevent anyone from escaping while we question them. I did a lot of research on this place. They are spotless, and they have a lot of funding. The probability of this place being a recruiting center for that group is becoming more evident. But now we have them in our clutches. I will have so much fun playing with their evil minds. Nizu chuckled with a smile, already enjoying the nice words he would tell everyone in this school before handing them to the police. The principal then turns toward the detective. Are your colleagues in position? He asked. Naomasa nodded as he showed that his radio was turned on. He then put it into his overcoat. Yes, I'll keep radio contact on so they can listen to what we hear, and thanks to my quirk, we can immediately know if this is an MLA recruit center, the detective says. Inside his mind, he was still thinking about how the police never did anything even when the Midoriya shown them evidence. Scars like that are impossible to be ignored as evidence. This means that maybe there was either a spy that was hiding this building activity or even corruption. Both were very likely to be true. Nizu clapped his paws together a couple of times with a smile. It was time to start the show. Perfect. Now gentlemen, let's go, we have a job to do, Nizu says with a tint of malice on his happy face, rubbing his paws together, already looking forward to the show. Yen 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 yen. In the courtyard. Both students and staff members were gathered in the courtyard, in front of them, stopping the four men in front of them. The students were whispering to themselves, asking each other who these men were. They were silenced by the principal of their school, who started talking in a happy voice as he walked in front of the huge group. Izuku on the other hand just kept his eyes closed, focusing on the key signatures that were around the field. I know it was a bit sudden to make everyone come here, but I have splendid news. The principal of UA decided to make a surprise visit to our little school. The principal says happily. Immediately everyone goes wide-eyed and looks at the detective and two heroes. They wonder why one of them was dressed as a detective, but maybe he was a hero, they can't ever know. Izuku just sighs while pinching the bridge and shaking his head. These idiots. Nizu smiled and walked a bit forward, making everyone's eyes land on Izuku, who was calm and yet focused at the same time. This made the principal really excited about doing this. That's right. It's me, Nizu, the one who could be a dog or a mouse or a bear, but more importantly, I'm the principal of UA. Nizu says happily with an ever-present smile, but malice is hiding behind it. The shock of the students and staff members increased a lot, the former even started to cheer. No way. UA staff is here. I need to make a good impression. I will be the best of UA. He is the principal. This is awesome. Students started to cheer and shout excitedly. Their occasion to be heroes that graduated at UA was right there. Izuku frowns at this. If any of these idiots actually make it into UA, all hell would break loose. Some of them internally scoffed at seeing a tiny and weak-looking principal instead of the powerful monster that the teacher always pictured him to be, but they didn't say anything as they wanted to make a good impression to hopefully be admitted to his school. Izuku was able to sense negative energy in their ki. Nizu chuckled hearing all these cheers and shouts. This was going to be fun. Yet, he noticed Izuku was remaining calm while keeping his eyes closed. Judging from what All Might told him about the boy's ability to sense things. You are all so lively, and your eyes are so full of determination. Just like I expected you all to be. So many future heroes. Nizu says, making the students stop their cheering loudly, but they were still agitated, especially because they were being praised, but some of them noticed that something was off. Why did the other three look so serious at them? It made some shake at the intensity of their gazes. Aldera's principal grinned as he turned towards the four with his hands folded together. We are honored to hear this. Almost all of our students are prodigies, especially our Katsuki. If I can say, he has the potential to be the next All Might, he says happily. He didn't notice the skeleton-looking man scoff at this, his stare narrowing as his fists clenched, looking to be getting angry. Oh? Can I see him? Surely this young man needs to come to my school. We can't miss this opportunity, can we? Nizu says with a chuckle. Now he was dull and blown, laughing inside his head. Every bullshit that he was saying, the more hopeful and proud they became. The more shattered they will be when he will start his little show. Of course. Come here, Katsuki. The principal said excitedly as he waved the ash blonde to come closer. Katsuki walked over to stand beside his principal. He scoffed when he put a hand on his shoulder, shaking it off. He then turned towards the small chimera. Then glances at Izuku, then an arrogant grin and a look that SCK that you nerd, I'm heading to the top. Izuku just ignores himself the best that he could. You heard him. I'm Katsuki Bakugo, the future #1 hero. I'm ready to ace your entrance exam and every single thing you throw at me. Katsuki said loudly as he arrogantly indicated himself with his thumb. Ah, a pleasure meeting you. I heard a lot about you, about all of you, Nizu said as he looked at everyone with a smile. The staff got confused at this, they had a bad feeling about this, and they felt chills in their spines. Izuku sensed something big was going to happen and felt the nervousness in the staff. Really? From who? The principal asked cautiously. Nizu looked at him with a smile on his face. A student of yours. You should have seen the information he provided. He said a lot about this place, and to be honest, I'm surprised now that I see all of this in person. These friendly faces, the enchanting building, special lessons, Nizu starts to say with a smile. Everyone in the school has smiles on their faces, but they drop quickly when they hear what Nizu says next. Incitement to botulism, discrimination, refusal of medical treatment to a student, manipulation of grades, manipulation of personal school conduct, sabotage of application forms, and from what I see also corruption, Nizu says with a fake happy voice. The eyes of students and staff members widen like plates. What did he say? What do you mean by that? The principal tried to say. He was sweating profusely. Nizu looked at him once again. This time, that smile was terrifying, like they were being played from the start. Sorry, did I not explain myself well? Then let's make it more understandable for you. I was saying that I've never found a more disgusting school than this one. I thought I knew about human cruelty, but you surprised me. Congratulations, Nizu says, still smiling as he claps his paws. At this, Naomasa comes forward, standing beside the UA principal. Your list of crimes is pretty large. Your recruitment tactics are becoming sloppy. Don't worry, your friends of the MLA will reach you soon, the detective says seriously. Crimes? MLA? What are you talking about? We are innocent. Who told you these lies? We aren't members of those terrorists. a teacher says indignantly, but he is pale, they got them, they need to escape from this situation. Naomasa narrowed his gaze as he took his radio out, his quirk picked up that lie very quickly. Everything you have done counts as child abuse and incitement of illegal quirk usage to bring harm to an innocent. And every piece of evidence proves that this place is an MLA recruitment ground, every one of you is a member of that terrorist organization. So you will all be behind bars for a while, Naomasa says seriously. Some students now understood who the detective was talking about, it's his fault. Everyone then glares at Izuku, who can sense their killing intent. Izuku then sensed an attack from his left, quickly dodged it by leaping high in the air while flipping in a T pose, then twisted his body before landing on the ground gracefully in a crouch position with his right extended out while his right was crouched, his right hand on the ground, the left side hand extended. Looking at the ground, everyone was shocked that Izuku was able to perform a high level of acrobatics with a perfect landing, but for Nizu he only smiled seeing the boy's skill and wondered what else was he able to display. You quirkless BSTRD, what have you done? Why can't you just kill yourself, it will be a liberation, shouted a student glaring at Izuku. You're just jealous of our quirks. You are just telling a bunch of lies. Another student shouted as she glared at the detective. Don't believe that bullshit, he is an evolutionary gap, he should just be put down for good. One of the most aggressive students shouted, he fully believed in the strong rule over the weak rule already. This was a big mistake, Nizu immediately looked at them still with that smile, but it made their heart stop and their face pale, so much malice hidden behind that seemingly friendly smile and little black eyes. My what little rascals we have here, and I thought I would leave you with hard but just punishment, apparently I'm entitled to have more fun, good for me, says Nizu happily. What, the principal says fearfully. But first of all, Naomasa, Nizu says simply. Roger, Naomasa as he raised his radio and talked into it. Come on guys, we have some fresh criminals for you, he says seriously. Immediately various policemen and women started coming from the door of the school and walking in the country yard, they immediately started handcuffing the staff. Let me go. You are making a mistake, yells one of the professors. I refuse to be arrested because of that human garbage, shouted the nurse. You can't do it, shouts the principal as he struggles against them. Too bad I already did, in theory, a trial would be necessary, but the files I found, the bribes to the police to turn a blind eye, and such high and mysterious funding are proof enough of your involvement in the MLA, you are a disgrace, I wonder if you even studied to be a principal or if you were put there just to be a puppet. Ah, by the way, forgot to mention that even if you serve your sentence, you are banned from any school career, or maybe better say the majority of careers, bye-bye, Nizu says as he waves with his fingers while the police take the stuff away. Izuku was shell-shocked. He believed what was happening right now, but it was also strange that no one came after him. His body was feeling a relief sensation. Nizu then turned towards the terrorized students, making them shake even more if it was possible. Now it's your turn, little villains, we know all those who have participated in the abuse of the student that spoke to us. So it is useless to lie or cry. I made some calls, and you can't believe what they told me. You are officially blacklisted by any hero course that is in Japan, and even of many courses of other schools, they surprisingly don't like criminals, who would have thought of that, heh? But naturally, it's not over, you will all be judged separately in the police station, we don't want future criminals to walk in the streets, won't we? Nizu says happily as he notices the students' shocked expressions, it's ironic that they seem so sad even though they were so eager to beat and insult someone innocent, but this sad world works like this, it's easy to hurt others but hard to take the punishment. The Chimera then turned towards the ash blonde that he particularly wanted to talk to, the boy was in shock too, so many things happened in a short span of time that he couldn't process them fast enough. Apparently now for you, Katsuki Bakugo, Nizu said as he kept his smile, he then thought about Izuku's import, he thought a lot about it, the Chimera always wondered if it was possible to redeem a rotten person if they are given the right guidance, he always thought it was a bit naive, but maybe, hope was what made the green-haired boy make that request and maybe hope is what this naive idea needs to be turned into reality. Unfortunately your punishment isn't up to me, Nizu said. What? The blonde asked, shocked, what he was talking about? Yes, but the decision is not me, Nizu said then looks Izuku, who then realized the decision. Thinking back on everything that had happened, all the physical and mental pain he had been in for the last 10 years, so letting off the hook was not a plan, but he didn't want to deal with this. He wishes he skipped school. However, he knew he needed to answer now. Principal Nizu. Bakugo started thinking that Izuku wouldn't do anything because he was too weak and spineless. He would never do anything. I don't want to handle this at all, so Nizu, he's all you to deal with, Izuku answered. Behind he vanished again as he did with All Might. Bakugo's eyes widened, and then completely went pale as a ghost while Nizu smiled like Cheshire Cat, which sends a chill down everyone's spine. Thinking about it now, I always wondered if a villain could be redeemed if they are taught correctly. Nizu says as he snaps his fingers, making Naomasa walk over to him. He is holding something small in his hand. So I decided to do something a bit naive. I will give you one chance in good faith. Of course, you will have conditions to follow. You will have to follow some meetings with our lifestyle guidance counselor. Nizu explained as he then indicated the bracelet that Naomasa was holding. And you will have to wear this, so we can know where you are. We don't want you attacking students. I wonder if you will last long enough to be redeemed, but this is the good of the game, right? Returning to what I was saying before, if we see you attacking students inside and outside the school, you'll be left to me, of course, if you manage to pass the entrance exam, you understand? Nizu says with a predator smile, making Katsuki shake. Why yes, Bakugo responded. He was trying to be brave, but his legs were shaking. That chimera had so much malice hidden behind that smile that the blonde could feel his entire life being in danger. Good, well you others have to wait here to be questioned. Your parents have been warned, never to see you again. Nizu waved as he left with All Might in tow. Naomasa remained behind to interrogate the students. As the three were walking, All Might noticed how Nizu had a very satisfied face. Well, sir, you sure left the message in their minds, All Might says as he scratches his hair. His new boss literally crushed their spirits like nothing. The chimera looked at him this time with a true small friendly smile. They are children, but that doesn't make them immune to the consequences. What they did doesn't make them very different from the villains. Let's not talk about the school staff. I must say it was funny. Did you see the face that the principal made? So amusing. I love to punish humans, ha ha ha, Nizu said, cracking like a madman or mad rat. In time you will understand, but now enough to talk about this. We have to prepare for the entrance exam, Nizu added as he turned to look ahead, glancing at the spot where Izuku disappeared. Izuku Midoriya, what wonders will you bring to my school? I can't wait. 1-996. 1-997. 1-998. 1-999. 2000. Izuku was doing one-handed push-ups, switching between his left and right hands, in the woods. It's been 2 months since the incident with his junior high school, Aldera. The school was completely shut down, the teachers were arrested, and students except Bakugo were sent to juvenile court or jail for their crimes. Then his mother sued not just Aldera, but the school district, which she won of course, and ended up with a massive fortune because of that, and started getting Izuku in online school until he got into UA. Plus another thing with his mother, she completely cut ties with Bakugo, after he told her about everything from being quirkless to the bullying, his spirit powers, to the scars, and let's say he had never seen his mother so sad when she ripped a new one into the Bakugo as she did. She then started looking to reconnect with her old friends, mostly ones from college and high school. Speaking of school, UA hasn't tried to contact him at all after the incident. He thought the principal would want to talk to him about his spirit energy, but strangely he didn't. He did a nice meat and cheese basket with a card that said, "Hope to see you at UA, patiently waiting for your arrival." After finishing his set, Izuku stood up and over to his resting spot in the shade under a large oak tree and sat down on the ground, his legs crisscrossed, with his bottle of water and duffel bag right next to him. He was drinking his water, thinking about improving and adding new techniques to his arsenal. He then stops drinking, places the bottle down. He goes to his duffel bag, opening up he pulls out his energy book, going through the pages seeing about new ways he can use his spirit energy. Okay, let's see what I can learn. This seems interesting, Izuku thought looking through the passage. Flight. This technique is first shown in fighters who rely on levitation-related techniques, such as users, who master aerokinesis, but it is mostly used among a class and above fighters, allowing its users to perform techniques that would normally be very impractical or downright impossible without it. Normally, the technique is learned when a user improves their energy skills and can use their aura as a means to move in the air, which is normally related to a power boost. Nonetheless, warriors can learn this technique after harsh and constant training. Elemental manipulation. The main concept of the technique is to use its power to connect to a specific element. Besides creating, the user can also produce it from their energy. However, in this case, each element type needs to meet specific forms to be created and manipulated. The user can use the composite element and use it to their advantage, like redirecting to hit a target, as well as handling it to perform powerful techniques such as defense, attack, refinement, endurance, and so on. Despite having almost the same concept for all handlers, it was shown that an element can be controlled somehow unconventionally and that not all handlers' elements can produce it from its energy. Once Izuku was finished reading the information about the techniques, he could come up with these abilities, but after turning to the next page he started smiling wildly like Cheshire Cat. He couldn't help but chuckle while saying, "This is going to get interesting." Yen 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 yen. Training montage. Izuku was leaping from ledge to ledge on the mountainside while having heavy metal ball chained to his ankles. Seeing the sweat from his brow, he makes another leap on the ledge, and the surface cracks, causing Izuku to slide down, struggling the grip on the mountain, the pain of his hand being scraped on the side of a mountain, but then he grips on another ledge while hissing in pain. Looking at his hand, cuts and blood were oozing out. He looks at the top, before steeling his nerves, grips his fist, pulls himself back into position, then leaps from ledge to ledge once again. Yen 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 yen. We now see Izuku balance himself upside down on one finger on a sharp and pointy spike, keeping his energy focused on the spike while his hand was behind his back on a round and smooth stone while being surrounded by a pit of snakes. Yen 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 yen. Izuku was now meditating, in the center of a clearing while his spirit energy was following around him, but surprisingly he was floating from a few feet off the ground while strands of fire, water, wind, earth, ice, and lightning were swirling around him like in a circle. Yen 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 yen. Then Izuku was now punching and kicking an oak tree with his bare hands and legs, and no spirit energy behind his hits. The sweat and blood came off his body, making dents and chips on the tree with each strike. He panting and breathing hard. He then stopped for a second, looking at his hand. They were shaking and his knuckles were bleeding. His legs weren't doing good either, they were scraped and bruised. They were about to crack. He then takes a deep breath, then channels his spirit energy, sparks of his yellow electricity. The sound of crackling sparks started appearing around his injuries and surprisingly healing to the point where barely a few scrapes. As his energy faded and the sparks were gone, Izuku smiled and continued his exercise with the tree. Yen 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 yen. We now see the boy running on the beach that he cleaned years ago, wearing weighted clothes through the sand while dragging a large tire by a rope attached to him. Yen 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 yen. Izuku was in his room studying late at night while using his free hand, using a grip workout tool to build up his strength. Yen 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 yen. Another day was shown as Izuku was training with his spirit sword and new technique, the spirit whip, to cut down strong bamboo trees. Yen 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 yen. In the final scene, we see Izuku on the ground on all fours, panting from exhaustion and having a monster sweat. He looks up forward, seeing a massive cut through the forest as it is blasted by a huge beam. The ground was cut and smoldering in a crescent-shaped crater line. He smiles while muttering, I did it. Training montage end. Yen 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 yen. 10 months of training had finally passed. The exam was here. Izuku stood in front of the big gate that led to UA, his stare fixed on the massive building, astonishing to see. Alright, this is the time to ace this thing, he mutters, taking in everything. In all this time and training will fully beat fruit. The boy glanced to the side, seeing boys and girls from diverse schools walking beside him, slowly entering the school, ready to prove themselves to enter the best hero school in Japan. There's so many people. Well, it's expected, but still. So many. He thought as he could feel everyone. Some of them were either nervous, excited, or anxious, which he understood after Aldera was closed up. He didn't interact with people his age, so he felt completely lost. He was also able to notice the looks that people were giving him, mostly from his scars. As started walking towards the entrance, he then felt a familiar size in annoyance. Why, great Kami, why? Are you FING serious? What the F are you doing here? An angry voice snarled from behind him, causing the boy to smack his head on a brick wall. No. Not him. Not now. Izuku looked behind. He saw Katsuki standing some feet away. The ash blonde didn't look very happy to see the green-haired boy. Meanwhile, the other applicants glanced at the two, feeling the tension. Bakugo? Izuku finally managed to say in his mind. He hadn't seen the ash blonde in months. He could feel his body reacting badly to his presence, every instinct telling him to beat the sheet out of him. But something was different. The boy could feel a pounding in the back of his head, a familiar feeling. It wasn't nervousness, it wasn't fear. It was. Izuku felt the veins of his forehead popping out as he unconsciously clenched his fists, his body now being enveloped by two emotions: rage and hate. The blonde glared at Izuku as he made a step forward, his fists clenched tightly. He did notice the strange change in behavior of the green-haired boy, but he didn't particularly care. What he cared about now was that he was here. Not only he almost ruined his chance to be a hero, not only he humiliated him by having pity on him, now he was mocking him by being here in the first place. Deku. So you are this brain dead? Katsuki scowled as he glared even more, veins being visible on his forehead. His FING bracelet was deactivated today because it would be impossible to stay away from Izuku, and now having him in front of him increased the hate he feel for the quirkless loser even more. What did I say about going to UA? Katsuki continued as he gritted his teeth slightly. Izuku stood his ground, rage present in every corner of his body. The words were stuck in his throat, but when Katsuki mentioned him not wanting him to go to UA, his mind went blank, his pupils dilated as he could feel a dreaded feeling coming back. Don't ever think about coming to UA, the words that Katsuki told him returned inside his mind. Many more times that the blonde mocked his dream returned too, the burning feeling increasing at every word and burning his fear away. Hatred, anger and frustration, emotions that Izuku locked away for a long time, but keeping them under bars wasn't so easy. So a small part of them managed to escape and they were going to make their presence known. And? Izuku says in a surprisingly cold and hostile way, making Katsuki stop in his tracks. Katsuki made a sound of surprise as he actually had to stop for a moment to look back at Izuku, finding him glaring back, this time without fear present. There was just hostility in those green eyes. The blonde could swear he saw a glowing glint in them, but probably was the sun. Before he could think further, the green-haired boy continued, that cold tone never leaving him. So what about you saying that I can't go to UA? Izuku continued as he turned his body towards him. Even more applicants stopped to watch. They felt a strange shiver grazing their spines, and it was coming from the green-haired boy, who ignored them completely, preferring to continue glaring at Katsuki. Do you think you have a say in my decisions? Izuku concluded as more veins were visible on his forehead, showing how truly angry he was becoming, his fists shaking as both rage and burning anger were assaulting his body. The second was slowly winning him over. His spirit energy started leaking out slightly into a hue. Katsuki recovered from his surprise and clenched his teeth, not very happy to be talked this way from a weak quirkless BSTRD like him, veins popping out from his cheek as he glared back. Pretty late for you to grow a backbone, loser, Katsuki snarled as he narrowed his eyes even more. This quirkless loser was defying him again. Izuku couldn't stop himself in time as he spat back the words with equal irritation. Oh, you already know I have a backbone, but pretty late for you to grow a brain, a-hole. He spoke before he could stop himself. Part of him was extremely confused about what was happening. He couldn't stop himself. He was just so tired of being walked over by everyone. He couldn't stop his frustration to be turned into words. He wanted to just be left alone. This caused even more rage to be present in the ash-blonde mind, more veins popping out, his teeth clenched so tight that Izuku wondered if they were going to break, but then he seemed to calm down, a very irritated look on his face, but he didn't cite hostility. The motive was that the ash-blonde remembered that he couldn't pick a fight with the same fucker that almost deleted his possibility to go to UA and become the #1 hero. So, he bit the spite he had and decided to just ignore this petal. He would never pass the exam anyway. TCH, you aren't even worth it. You better stay out of my way, or I'll kill you, Katsuki says, irritated as he resumes walking forward, moving Izuku out of the way with his shoulder. Izuku just sighs in annoyance. The boy looked ahead and sighed, his stare troubled. Not worth it, huh? The same thing everyone always said to me, and the pain continues, Izuku muttered sadly as stopped any memory from coming back. He didn't need any more of his issues now. He looked up as he took a deep breath, a more calm expression on his face. You aren't looking for anyone's approval, you're gonna prove to everyone that you can be a hero without a quirk. I can't let anything stop me. Izuku thought as he started walking forward with legs. He wasn't going to let hesitation stop him anymore. Nothing could stop him until he tripped, his face quickly going towards the floor. Oh come on, Izuku then quickly plants his palm on the ground and does a front flip, sticking the landing on the ground. He heard a voice from his left, a feminine one. Wow, I guess you didn't need my help, huh? The person that was at his left asked, her voice friendly. His eyes focused on her face as he finally could get a good look at her, and the results were pretty much immediate. He thought she was a very cute girl, a little shorter than him with fair skin and auburn hair with eyes that matched in color. She has a perpetual pink blush on her cheeks, and her eyes are large and round with thick upper lashes, two more extended and more prominent ones on either side, and fewer but more individually pronounced lower lashes. Her hair is shoulder-length with short bangs, and the style is bobbed with two long strands framing her face. That was pretty impressive you did there, you must have good reflexes, she said in a friendly way as she opened her eyes again, her auburn irises staring at his green ones as she put a hand on her chest while she talked. Izuku smiles while replying he works out a lot. Ah, I'm so nervous too, this exam is so nerve-wracking, the girl continued as she raised her head a little and closed her eyes, her smile and voice a bit more cheerful. The boy looked at her weirdly, not used to having friendly interaction with people his age, but then he noticed that she was slightly squirming in place. He didn't need to use his ki to notice it. He quickly caught why she was doing that. She was as nervous as he was to be here, but she was doing a better job hiding it. He looked at her friendly face with a thoughtful face. Something in his mind was nudging him to try to cheer her up. The fact that she tried to help him not break his nose was a great help to make him act quickly. Yes it is, but we are gonna pass it for sure, right? Izuku said, trying to do the closest thing to giving someone encouragement. He hoped at least he didn't seem ridiculous. He doubted it. The girl looked at him with a tiny bit of surprise, but then, to his surprise, actually beamed at him a little more. Yes, of course. Let's do our best, jumping boy. Giggle, she says as she pumps her fists, a cute giggle following the nickname. Izuku hummed while looking away, not trusting his voice one bit as the shyness was slightly taking over. Suddenly, they heard the bell that announced that the exam was close, making them jump a bit. Ah, we should go, I see you there. She says in a hurry as she starts to walk past him, but then she slows down her pace, turns her body slightly towards him, and starts to wave. Good luck to both of us. She says cheerfully as she turns away and disappears in the crowd, leaving Izuku alone. Izuku smiled knowing that he helped someone. With his confidence high he started walking into the school. Yen 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 yen. 5 minutes later, the written test. Izuku was sitting behind one of the desks of the big classroom where the written test would take place. He was a little nervous. Even if this was theoretically the least important of the two tests that formed the entrance exam, it was still nothing to sleep about. He glanced around curiously to distract himself, noticing the other applicants talking with each other, sharing some jokes, some quiet laughs. He even heard a couple talk about how cool they would be when they become full-fledged heroes. His eyelids lowered the smallest bit, his stare full of shy curiosity. They look like they are having fun, he said in his mind. An even more curious expression made its way on his face as he glanced at another group. He saw a boy and a girl very close to each other. The boy at a certain point kissed the girl on the nose, which made her blush a bit and giggle. The green-haired boy tilted his head to the side a little, confused by the display of affection, but deep down asked himself how close they must be to do this kind of stuff. Are they friends? Or maybe a couple? It seems nice to be this close to someone who wonders if I will ever make friends here. Izuku wondered in his mind as his eyes darted slowly around, noticing more groups. He admittedly was a bit envious as a part of him always wondered what having actual friends felt like. Are you actually at ease and not constantly wary of betrayal? The boy shook his head and scratched his cheek as he looked ahead. He realized that he was staring at others and he didn't want to attract attention to himself. He sighed a bit downcast as he shifted from scratching his cheek to his hair. Who am I kidding? Once they find out I'm quirkless everything will go right down the shitter, and I doubt anyone would be willing to talk to me after seeing me closely, Izuku thought sadly as he looked a bit down, his mood becoming sour. It was hard. Who would be happy to talk to him? Then a man started entering the room with a stack of tests. Good evening. As you know, this is the written test that preceded the practical exam. Make good use of your brain, and if I see you copy, it will be hell to pay, understand? The man says in a neutral voice. Now, come pick up a test, one at a time. Hurry up, the man says neutrally, making the students take the paper where the test was written. After Izuku got his test and was surprised at how easy it was, so at this point the written panel had begun. Yen 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 yen. Time skip 2 hours. After the written test, all the examinees were instructed to reach the auditorium where they will learn about the practical test. Izuku walked between the seating rows searching for his assigned seat. Theoretically, examinees coming from the same school will be seated together. But, considering that he doesn't exactly have a school to belong to anymore, and apart from Katsuki, his ex-classmates weren't allowed in this school. The boy hoped that he wouldn't sit next to the ash blonde. He was barely able to stabilize his thoughts after what happened at the gate, and now he would prefer to not have a second bad experience before he can even finish the exam. He glanced at the seat number written on his pamphlet. Together with it, information regarding the practical exam was written on it, including the robots they would fight, the mock city they would go to perform the test, and so on. They were assigned to a person and had their names signed on it. It should be in this row. It's not this. This one is occupied. Izuku muttered as he glanced at the number of seats. Many examinees had already found their seats, so he was trying to hurry up as he didn't want to be the only one up. It would be so embarrassing. Being watched by so many eyes is something that he greatly hated. Luckily he was getting closer to his assigned seat. It should be here. He muttered, but when he raised his gaze to look at where he believed it was surrounded, all the seats in that row and the one behind were already occupied except for one seat in the row in front, in the middle of a green-haired girl and a boy. The green-haired boy sweated a bit as he noticed that all the examinees around his seat had the same uniform, so he was going to sit together with people from a school that didn't know him, which meant gazes. And those brought attention, and that attention could bring many things that the Izuku greatly annoyed. He swallowed the lump in his throat and he then took a deep breath, steadying his nerves as he walked toward the group of people. He had remained calm, but he made sure to try to seem casual. At some steps from his seat, some of the examinees turned their gazes toward him. This basically did nothing for him. He simply sat on his seat, looking ahead with a calm look. He could feel even more stares from the examinees close to him, who became curious as they finally got the answer of why there was an empty seat in their section. The green-haired could also feel that the girl on his right also turned to look at him curiously. "Ah, I wondered why there was an empty seat here. It's a school uniform? I don't recognize it. DMN, look at those scars." He barely managed to hear the whisper of one of the examinees 2 rows behind. Luckily he managed to avoid them. He realized they were talking about him. He didn't want to seem fragile in front of strangers. It never ends well. At least, most of the time, considering what happened at his old school. Luckily for him, the door on the right part of the stage opened by being opened by a kick, and someone entered the big room with a knee slide, a big grin on his face. "Yeah, little zygotes. Present Mike is here to start the show?" The hero shouted with great energy as he got up quickly, making the audience look at him more clearly. He was a tall, slim man with long blonde hair spiked upwards in a large tuft behind his head, and a small brown mustache. He has rectangular eyes with concentric pupils and greenish-yellow irises. He was wearing an outfit consisting of a black jacket with a very tall collar, upturned and complete with studs, and matching black pants and knee-high boots. He sports tan shoulder pads, a red belt and elbow pads, all studded, and black fingerless gloves. On his neck, there was a strange gadget similar to a directional speaker. He was also wearing a pair of headphones with the word Hage written on the headband and a pair of orange-tinted shades. He then stood on the tip of his toes and spun in place, stopping after a couple of rotations to dramatically point at the stunned audience. "Welcome to my live show. Are you ready to go crazy? Let me hear a hey." Present Mike shouted with extreme energy as he walked towards the stand and put a hand on his ear. Izuku thought about it for a second, as he shrugged his shoulders. "Meh, why not? Why Izuku shouted excitedly as everyone else in the room was silent. "Wow, we got ourselves a high-spirit kid. Now onto the main show, like the practical exam. Are you ready?" "Yeah," the man asked. "Why Izuku shouted again, and no one else did. "Wow. You should all be like that kid, he has spirit. Anyway, you rockin' boys and girls will be out there conducting 10-minute mock battles in super hip urban settings." Present Mike said as the giant screen behind him showed them how this battle would work. "Let's check out your targets. There are 3 types of foe villains in every battle center. You'll earn points based on their level of difficulty, so better choose wisely. Your goal in this trial is to use your quirk to raise your score by shredding these foe villains like a mid-song guitar solo. But, check it. Make sure you're keeping things heroic. Attacking other examinees is a UA no-no, ya dig?" Present Mike began to explain as made some hand gestures or poses to be dramatic and keep the flow his way. Behind him, the screen showed something similar to a video game. A small pixelated Present Mike jumped over 3 types of robots, destroying them and gaining points. However, as the hero was explaining, the boy said sternly that he was relatively tall and with a muscular physique with a wide frame. He has short dark blue hair, flattened neatly down and parted on the right side of his head, a small patch completely shaved near the base of his head, and rather square eyes that match the notably pointed shape of his jaw. His eyebrows seem to be permanently pointed inwards, quite thin and long, the far ends sharply hooked inwards, and he wears glasses with rectangular lenses, raising his hand. "Excuse me, sir, but I have a question," the tall young man asked stiffly. "Hit me," Present Mike says with a grin as a spotlight appears on the tall boy, who doesn't seem to mind as he raises his pamphlet. "On the printout, you've listed 4 types of villains. Not 3. With all due respect, if this is an error on official UA materials, it is shameful. We're all here today in the hopes of being molded into model heroes. We expect the best from Japan's most notable school. A mistake such as this won't do," the boy says with a slight frown, indicating his printout with one finger. "Man, this guy has a stick up his butt or what?" Izuku thought. But he didn't stop there. Suddenly he turned around, facing Izuku. "Also," he continued as he began to raise his free hand, seemingly to point toward the green-haired boy. Izuku's eyes widened in terror as he realized that the boy was most likely going to call him out, humiliating him in front of everyone. The F-. What did I do? The tall boy raised his finger to point at someone. Izuku then noticed that it wasn't him, even more surprised when the dark blue-haired boy, instead of pointing at him, indicated someone else that was some rows behind Izuku's. "You with the spiky ash-blonde hair." The stiff boy called, revealing that his finger was pointing toward a not-so-happy Katsuki. "HAA? Are you talking to me, for eyes? What the F do you want?" Katsuki says with an angry frown. "What the F does this loser wants? Does he search for a fight?" Izuku was surprised by this and looked back to see that it was Katsuki who was called out. What? What was happening? The dark blue-haired boy frowned more as he stood straight. "What I want is that you stop cursing and grumbling to yourself. It's not only distracting but it's also making the people around you uncomfortable. This is not a behavior worthy of a hero. I would like you to stop, and if you can't, then you should just leave this building if you dislike being here so much," the tall boy says as his glasses reflected a bit of light. The only visible eye showed that he was irritated. His ash-blonde left eye started to twitch as veins were visible on his forehead, his anger increasing several times. "Why don't you just mind your own business and shut the F up before I blow up your mouth to pieces?" he says with hostility. What does he think he is to talk to him like this? Extras should know their place in front of someone powerful like him. Before the dark blue-haired boy could answer, he was anticipated by Present Mike. All right. Stop it, both of you, you with the foul mouth, don't threaten other examinees or you will be disqualified. We don't like that type of behavior. Are you in tune?" Present Mike says without smiling this time, already recognizing the special student that Nizu warned all the teachers about. "TCH, whatever," Katsuki scoffed as he sat again while LOL away. It was not worth it to argue with these extras. The hero turned towards the tall boy now, his grin returning. "Examinee number 711, oh, thanks for calling in with your request. The fourth villain type is worth 0 points. There are 3 robots that in order of difficulty and points will grant you at their defeat, victory, Imperial, and Venator. The fourth robot, Executor, is just an obstacle we'll be throwing in your way. There's one in every battle center. Think of it as a hurdle you should try to avoid. It's not that it can't be beaten, but there's kinda no point. I recommend my listeners to try to ignore it and focus on the ones toppin' the charts," Present Mike explained as he indicated behind him, the screen showing every single foe villain that will be present in the exam. The tall boy nodded and then bowed. "Thank you very much. Please, continue," the dark blue-haired boy says as he sits down, satisfied by the answer. "Too stiff, ease up a little listener clear throat," Present Mike muttered as he then cleared his throat and looked at everyone with his excited aura back to full gear. "That's all I got for you today. I'll sign off with a little present. A sample of our school motto. As General Napoleon Bonaparte once laid down. A true hero overcomes life's misfortunes. Now that's a tasty soundbite. I got one better. Are you ready to go beyond? Let's hear a plus ultra." Present Mike shouted excitedly as he put a hand on his ear. "Plus ultra?" Many examinees cheered this time. "Good luck. Hope you practiced hitting more than just books. On your sheets there's the battle zone you are assigned to plus the bus number, so don't get lost. I know how it feels, ha ha ha," he says at the end. After that, the examinees started to get up from their seats. Izuku got up too, ready to change into his workout gear so he could go to the bus and finally end this exam. Yen. After the bus. After the bus ride, Izuku stood in front of the gigantic gate leading to the Battle Center B, or Ground Beta in short, a massive mock area that emulates a standard urban area, with streets and buildings. From the map that he had in his pamphlet, the area was as big as a small city. This is just another UA training grounds, an entire mock city. I've never been here before, only the industrial one is amazing, Izuku muttered awestruck as his eyes trailed all the height of the gate, making the green-haired boy feel even smaller than he was, and the fact this massive mock city filled with robots made him excited. The only thing wasn't just the robots, it was the others. This is a full-blown competition which just made him know that he couldn't hold back. This might as well be a whole town. How many replica sites like this exist on this campus? UA's nuts. A tall boy some meters to his right shouted in awe, making the boy come back from his thoughts and quickly look around a bit nervous. He then noticed that he was surrounded by the other examinees. The green-haired boy remained calm in this situation, but he couldn't help as his eyes glanced around to shyly scan the many examinees who were waiting like him. Some had support equipment attached to their bodies. So many different quirks, they even brought support items to use them better. I don't have anything, well I won't need them since I got my energy, but I wonder? Izuku wondered in his mind. He patted a spot on the back of his pants workout, checking if the medical supplies were in his pockets. From what he read on the pamphlet, you can't bring weapons or gadgets that aren't compatible with your quirk. But, you can bring supplies or other things to use during the exam that aren't specifically to destroy robots, like food or in Izuku's case, medical supplies. He brought patches and bandages, in case someone got hurt and they didn't need his spirit healing ability. As he kept checking the other examinees, he noticed all kinds of mutations, horns, additional limbs, or different body types. All of this spiked his curiosity even more, his passion for quirk dulling his previous nervousness. His stare focused from the other applicants' bodies or support items to their faces. He didn't realize that, unconsciously, he was trying to find the ones that he had met so far. He doesn't know why, but having someone that he recognizes in his field of vision was something that he thinks will ease him up a little. Maybe the girl of the gate. She was so friendly with me, it was nice. Izuku muttered quietly to himself as he glanced around more. If he recognizes someone, it might be a good idea to walk to them. He wanted a good experience. He not so secretly was growing more and more curious about all these new situations he was finding himself in. His thoughts were cut off when his eyes noticed the same tall boy with glasses from the auditorium. He is here too. Better to avoid him for now. Izuku muttered a bit cautious as he made a mental note not to make himself noticeable, even if he wanted to see if it was possible to get along with some more people. He had to focus. As he looked away from him to resume his search for someone he may recognize, his attention was caught once again when he saw a girl that stood a lot to his eyes. Maybe it was the energetic aura she had around her, or it was the way she looked. The girl was a little shorter than him and with an athletic body, her skin being a light shade of pink, and she had somewhat square-shaped eyes with black scaras and yellow irises and notably long eyelashes below and around the sides of her eyes. Her face is framed by short fluffy and unruly pink hair which is slightly darker than her skin. She also has two thin pale yellow horns protruding from her head, hooked squarely and leaning diagonally to opposite sides. She was wearing decorated purple gym clothing. What confused the green-haired boy a bit was that the girl, instead of being nervous, seemed strangely excited and pumped up like she was ready for anything. He unconsciously tilted his head to the side, both curious about her. I guess not everyone is scared of this exam. He muttered, noticing that she was stretching her arms in the air while leaning a bit her body forward, giving the boy a better view of her cute horns. Her look intrigued Izuku a lot. She looked like an alien beauty. Her horns are so tiny, and her skin and eye color, is it because of her quirk? She is so pretty and she didn't stop smiling for a second. Maybe she is friendly. Izuku thought curiously, his cheeks heating a lot for mentally calling a girl cute, but he managed to keep himself from freaking out as he was surrounded by other people. The last thing he needs is attracting attention and mockery. He noticed that the girl was about to turn towards him, so he looked away, but then his eyes widened in relaxation as the direction he turned allowed him to see one of the people he was unconsciously looking for, the girl from the gate that tried to stop him from falling. The nice girl of the gate. Maybe I should wish her good luck. Mom said that I should try to interact more on my own. Izuku thought. He just realized that those shockingly positive exchanges weren't started by him, so maybe if he truly wants to get along with others, he should try to start the interaction himself. With this thought in mind, he nervously started to walk towards her. He interacted with anyone his age that wasn't a complete jackass, so this was unknown territory for him. Before he could get close enough to her, he felt a hostile key signature behind him as a hand was placed on his shoulder. On instinct he quickly grabbed the person's arm and did a shoulder throw, throwing the person on the ground. Holding their wrist slightly twisted, he planted his foot on the side of his rib cage. Izuku then noticed it was the same black-haired glasses worn by the kid from before. What the F we're trying to do? Izuku demanded answers while the boy winces in pain while he was in surprise, but yet turned into an angry state. You! Arg! I saw you were going over to that girl. What are we going to do to distract her? It's not fair behavior according to the rules. Now I see you're nothing more than a delinquent. Arg! The glasses-wearing boy spoke as Izuku held his wrist tight. You're an idiot, Izuku said, letting him out, as the boy quickly got up confused and angry, but before he uttered a word. And start. Present, Mike shouted from the top of the side of the open gate, just increasing everyone's confusion. Everyone was perplexed. No countdown started. So do they have to go or wait? Izuku was equally confused. He tried to understand what was happening, but then, he remembered something that he read on the pamphlet. Simulation of a real-life villain attack. This means. Izuku thought as his eyes widened in realization. He looked at the open gate and made a step ahead, already silently drawing his energy out. There's no countdown. I hope I didn't mess up even this time. At least I can go away from them, Izuku thought as he started to run into the mock city, leaving the other examinees surprised by his sudden action, using his super speed technique. Yen 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 yen. At the entrance of the mock city. What is that idiot doing? Besides being weak now he's also crazy, says one of the applicants. The two girls who wanted to help the green-haired boy and the tall boy with glasses were still looking in the direction he went, seeing his figure grow smaller and smaller. They were starting to have the same thought process that made the boy run into the mock city, but it was instantaneously created when Present Mike spoke again. What's the matter? There's no such thing as a countdown in a real battle. That listener got the right idea, run. Ruin. The hero shouted, causing everyone to widen their eyes and rush too. Yen 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 yen. A couple of minutes later. With Izuku. Bam. Crash. Izuku ducked a three-pointer arm, his teal-colored energy dancing around his skin as he adapted to the tempo of the multiple small fights. He didn't have the time for nervousness or anxiety, his mind just had space for one thing only. Excel at this exam, prove them wrong. But it was difficult because he originally had a theory that was now true. So I was right, I can't sense the key of robots because they have no key for me to sense. The boy gritted his teeth as he dodged another attack from the slim robot. He punched the middle section, the metal plate easily breaking and deforming, making the robot lean forward, exposing its vulnerable head. Oh well, reflexes and instincts it is. Izuku quickly bent his legs and jumped enough to be a little above the robot, his arm raised and his fist clenched, covering his fist in spirit energy. Spirit punch. He shouted as delivered a downward punch directly at the one-pointer head, easily destroying it, resulting in the robot going limp and impacting the floor. The boy landed immediately after, moving some small metal fragments out of the way with his shoe to avoid stumbling. He took some small deep breaths, more to slow down his thought process to better articulate them, wanting to count his points. I have 20 points, it's nowhere near enough if I want to be first. He thought as his eyes narrowed with focus. He was about to go look for more robots, but he stopped when he began to hear loud sounds all around him, like something was approaching fast. Huh? He muttered, confused as more sweat formed on his forehead, a bit of shock creeping out. And, before he could put himself in position. Bam! The wall of a building at his right was breached open by a three-pointer, its armored tracks rumbling as they spun, bringing it closer and closer to the surprised boy. Target locked, its emotionless voice says as it raises its giant arms, ready to fight. Izuku yelped a little as he was surprised by the sudden entry of the three-pointer. It was bigger than the other ones, primarily its arms and torso. He ready hand posing like a gun, while he uses his other hand to hold his wrist. His energy gathered at the tip of his finger. Spirit gun. Firing spirit energy bullet. Izuku recoils from the shot, skidding back a few feet, and the shot pierced through the chest of the robot before exploding in scrap metal. Ha! Take that, you tin can, Izuku yelled before checking his hand as 4 of his fingers were glowing with spirit energy before clenches his fist. So I've got about 4 shots left. Then at the corner of his eye saw a couple of bots charging right at him, from the left. Izuku smirks while muttering. So they want to play, huh? I should warn you guys. Izuku then turns towards them. He then closes his hand and positions it backward, focusing his spiritual energy in his palm and compressing it. He then throws a punch towards the target, releasing the energy in the form of multiple energy projectiles. I play rough? Shotgun. All the shots then hit their marks, causing them to explode into a pile of scrap metal too. The robot's shoulder-mounted rocket launcher fired a couple of non-lethal rockets toward him, but he lowered his body while running, and when they were close to him, almost exploded and stunned him. But, he jumped at the last second, using the explosion to propel himself forward toward the three-pointer. He felt a bit dazed by the close purple stunning explosion, and the concussive force hit him in the back hard, but he gritted his teeth and bottled up any whine of pain that he may produce, using it as a means to get closer to the robot before it can even react. Izuku was quickly descending towards the robot, and when he was about to slam into it, he raised his arm as his fist was covered in flames, his eyes flashing in teal for a single moment. Fist of the mortal flame! He shouted as he spiked the robot with his arm, easily deforming and tearing the metal like paper. While also setting the bot molten metal, the flames ignited the parts right after. After he got his feet on the ground, the boy had the time to take a single quick breath before he heard something approaching fast from his right. He immediately turned his gaze to look at the direction of the sound with his glowing eyes, seeing a one-pointer ready to attack. A battle plan quickly formed inside his mind, feeling the metal under the arm he used to destroy the three-pointer. With his arm still placed over the destroyed metallic body of the three-pointer, Izuku opened his hand and closed it, grabbing a piece of the destroyed scraps of the robot, and crushing it with his superhuman strength to make it slimmer and longer. He then turned his body towards the approaching robot and rushed forward, his eyes showing nothing close to fear, just burning determination. Ah! He roared as he used the scraps as a makeshift knife, his superhuman strength making it able to pierce through the one-pointer body. He then pulled the knife to the side, tearing a good chunk of its middle section. The boy wasn't there. He let go of the scraps and clenched the now free hand into a fist. "Raph!" he shouted as he punched right through the hole he created and then grabbed the robot power source, tearing it out of the metallic body and throwing it away. "All right. 3 robots left, keep your tempo," Izuku thought as he immediately repositioned himself to face the other robots, his mind working fast to coordinate both his footing and keep his energy active. His eyes moved towards the closer one-pointer, which raised its arm and tried to hit the boy, but he quickly dodged by jumping back, his eyes immediately focused on the robot's single red lens. The boy's eyes narrowed a bit as he landed and spun his arm in a circular motion with great speed, a small twister formed around his wrist. He heard the other robots getting closer but he put all his focus on the one he was aiming at. "Okay, let's try this. Tornado fist ah!" he yelled, getting himself ready to throw one of his most difficult attacks. He shouted as he charged straight forward and successfully hit the one-pointer right in the eye. The force of the air pressure was enough to both shatter the lens and severely damage the head, making it lose its coordination and rush forward without a pattern. Izuku ducked to the side, avoiding being hit by the damaged robot. It slammed against the one-pointer that was trying to attack the boy from behind, causing both to crash on the ground. "All right," Izuku cheering in his victory. But he just kept forcing his mind into a battle-focused state. In this state he only had to focus on the task at hand. He noticed a shadow over him and he immediately understood what was about to happen. With quick movements and reflexes, he put himself in position and turned his head to look up at the two-pointer that was leaping at him. He dodged the side, watching as the robot's 4 legs slammed on the floor. But it wasn't over. It tried to continue its assault by using its tail head to deliver a whipping strike, but he caught it, his feet sliding a little on the ground as the momentum slammed into him and made him back away. "I got you, and now, Izuku says with a grin that imitates All Might to boost himself even more. He fixed his footing, channeling his energy, and got ready. "We finished this," he shouted as he pulled the tail head, lifting the robot and making it spin around. After a couple of rotations, the boy turned to his target and pulled the robotic extension, dragging the robot with him and smash! He slammed the two-pointer on the 2 one-pointers, destroying all 3 in one move. The boy was panting as he backed away a little, putting his hands on his knees and letting his heartbeat settle down. "With this, I have 64 points. Not that bad I guess, but I need much more," he muttered as a small nervous smile made way on his face. He couldn't help himself from being happy that he was doing something, happy that he was not a complete disaster, and that he managed to avoid his fear and anxiety to slowing him down. He stopped panting as he straightened up his back, adrenaline still pumping in his system, making him jumpy and ready for action. It's hilarious that he seemed kinda battle-hungry now, searching for a fight himself. "All right. I'm getting more used to this. Maybe I'm not that terrible," Izuku muttered as he started running through the city, destroying some occasional robots that got in his way. Now having 64 points, he could feel his hopes getting a bit up, but he didn't slow down. The memories of his training and those of his promise to be first at the exam kept his determination pumping. "Gonna search for more robots, still not enough, keep your focus." "Huh?" Izuku muttered, but then his thoughts stopped when he began to hear sounds of battle all around him while sensing the different key signatures around. "That must be the others fighting. This means there's going to be fewer robots here. That's not good. I need to find another area quickly. I just need to pass this street and go around them. I don't need to talk or interact. Simple enough, I hope," Izuku thought as he kept running. The noises got louder, meaning that he was getting closer to the other examinees. The boy kept his focus high to stay on guard and not allow other examines to dull his focus. After some moments, he entered a more open area similar to a small square, both examinees and robots present there, the first dispatching of the seconds without too many problems. This made the boy stop for a moment to glance as his fellow examinees destroyed the robots, quirks being used to the maximum, attracting a lot of his curiosity. But then he shook his head, not considering him even a rival worthy of consideration, so he shouldn't be so interested in them. Before he could go away in search of a more isolated area, his eyes caught a glimpse of a familiar girl between the battles, the same girl who he wanted to talk to before the gates opened. "Her again? Huh?" he muttered, but then he stopped when he noticed that she was surrounded. His protective instincts flared up as he was about to shout at her to be careful. But she surprised him with what she did to get herself out of the situation. The auburn-haired girl quickly touched the robots around her with her hands, a faint pink glow emanating from her fingerprints. After she did that, every robot started to float in the air, getting at some meters of distance. The girl then brought her fingertips together as she did with him on the front gate, and the robots stopped floating and then started to fall towards the ground, crashing on it and being reduced to scraps. The girl seemed to be tired due to the strenuous use of her quirk, panting a little as she put her hands on her knees, trying to catch her breath. Meanwhile, Izuku was left with a slightly agape mouth, and imaginary stars around his head as his interest was completely taken. Does she have a gravity manipulation quirk? Or maybe she can just remove it and give it back? It doesn't seem telekinesis to me. I felt strange when she made me levitate, my ears felt strange. Izuku thought as he gave himself into a bit of quirk analysis. He doesn't do this often, but the combined presence of a cool quirk and a friendly person made his curiosity almost impossible to contain. It's so cool, she destroyed them with a couple of moves. Izuku muttered, but then he stopped when he noticed that her eyes were open now and she was staring right at him. But he saw that a couple of bots were charging right at him. Spirit Sword. He conjured his signature aqua-green sword. Alright sucker, Haveity. Aha, Izuku yells while charging through, slicing bot after bot after bot. The robots in that area were mostly dealt with, so the noises were greatly diminished, allowing the girl to mostly focus on him. Her eyes scanned him for a couple of moments and then they slightly widened in realization. Huh? Wait, it's him, Jumping Boy. She thought, a bit surprised as she recognized him once again. She became even more surprised when she noticed the teal energy dancing around his skin, his slightly glowing eyes looking at her for a second before turning to a couple of bots. Then seeing a make a sword out of energy, slice all those bots with a high level of skill. She shook her head and then focused on the exam. Yen 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 yen. Back with Izuku. After slashing a couple of more bots with his sword, he looks around the area, seeing if anyone needs some help. Then he picked up a familiar key signature. From the left he saw the same pink-skinned girl that he saw at the entrance of the mock city. She was fighting with a group of robots, holding her without being scared. On the contrary, she still kept her confident and energetic grin. Take that! And that? She shouted as she secreted the same corrosive liquid from her hands and threw it at the remaining robots, hitting a 3-pointer on the chest and a 2-pointer on the leg, and then on the head, ending the battle. And with this, 27 points are all for me, but better get more. It would suck a lot to not get in. Huh? She says, but stopped when she noticed the green-haired boy in the corner of her eye. Huh? She muttered curiously as she turned her head and then body towards him, her exotic eyes scanning his frame while he was completely in his little world, not noticing that she saw him. After a couple of seconds of pondering, she snapped her finger as she finally recognized him. He is the greenhead those bullies were throwing the insult at. What a coincidence. Fancy seeing him here. What he is doing though? Doesn't seem the type to steal points, and he is just watching me, she thought as she tilted her head to the side. Hey, admiring the show, greenhead. If you continue to look so awestruck, you are gonna make me blush, teehee, she teased as she put a hand on her side, winking and sticking her tongue out while giggling. But his eyes widened in terror as he saw something behind the girl. The girl noticed this and was confused. Why did he look so scared out of the blue? What's row dash? She was about to ask but stopped when she heard familiar mechanical noises behind her and then saw a shadow over. She had just the time to turn her head to see the 3-pointer she hit earlier with its arm raised and about to hit her, its frontal plate half melted but it was still active. The girl couldn't move fast enough, both because of the surprise and the robot already starting the attack. It got closer and closer to her, and she was already preparing herself for the ugly bruise that would form because of it and the uncool patches that she would have to wear. But, before she could get hit, she heard sword get long. Slink. She then opened her eyes to see that the robot's head was pierced through by some sort of energy. He looked behind and saw Izuku's sword got longer. Pulling back his sword, returning it to normal size and making his sword disappear, he conjured up an aqua-green whip out of energy. Leaping into the air, delivering the final strike. Spirit Whiplash. Izuku then swiftly slashes the whip in multiple directions, slicing down the bot in pieces. Landing on the ground in front of the girl, seeing there was no danger, he makes his spirit whip disappear, then turns back, kneeling to the pink-skinned girl while having his hand stretch out, offering a helping hand. Are you okay? Yen 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 yen. Observation room. In a dark room lighted only by the multiple screens, the judges were watching the examinees' performance thanks to the many cameras and drones dispersed in the battlegrounds. They were methodical in observing how the examinees that attracted their attention behaved in various situations. The darkness of the room partially covered their features, leaving their identities difficult to see. Nizu was between them, the chimera sitting on one of the seats with a calm smile on his face. The examinees have no idea how many villains are present or their locations. They have limited time in which they must cover a vast area and hunt down every last target, he said, as some of the judges, who will be the examinees' future teachers, if they pass the exam of course. His black eyes glanced through the screens, his sharp mind working very fast and efficiently to break down his future students' abilities and skills. Some use information-gathering abilities to plan out strategies, he says as he looks towards a screen that shows a tall boy with multiple arms on top of a building, his additional arms turned into ears and eyes, increasing the examinee's perception. He then looked at another screen. The judges followed his stare, silently listening to the principal explanation. While others rely on speed to pull ahead of their peers, he continued as they watched the same dark blue-haired boy destroy a robot with a quick kick. His speed made a couple of judges nod and hum, impressed by the boy's quick thinking and speed. Of course, remaining calm under pressure can be a huge advantage. You can't let fear overshadow your own goal, Nizu says as he looks at another screen. A girl with vines as hair was seen facing a group of robots. Behind her stood a fellow examinee sitting on the ground while holding his arm. Even if the girl was outnumbered, she didn't lose her calm. She simply narrowed her gaze, and immediately after, her vine-like hair moved seemingly on its own, a part of it forming a wall to protect the other examinee, and the other group of vines crushed the robots without too much difficulty, as well as pure power and combat ability. Even if the heart should be strengthened before anything else, but that's why we are here. Nizu continued as he looked at a screen showing Katsuki in the center of a mass of destroyed robots, their metallic bodies reduced to smoking scraps heaps. The Chimera looked ahead and took a little sigh of satisfaction. This year they have an interesting crop of future students. Considering they have a rehabilitation student, then the successor of All Might, and then a quirkless child with powers that weren't a quirk this year is gonna be interesting. The most successful students use a combination of all these tactics. These tactics and skills need to keep the peace in the streets, and they are turned into points in this test. Nizu explained with a smile as he put his paws together. There's just one more thing to test his future students. The most important quality. He was brought back from his thoughts when he heard someone quietly grumbling at his right. The Chimera turned his mouse-like head to look at the source, finding Aizawa looking in particular at two examinees, Izuku and Katsuki. Something wrong, Aizawa? Nizu asked, still with a smile, curious of what was in his fellow hero's mind. The underground hero glanced at him with his usual unamused expression, his eyes particularly tired as he didn't get any sleep because of all the noises. The difference between those two is obvious. Aizawa says neutrally as he looks at the two examinees through the screens, Nizu doing the same. One can't stop himself from protecting others, hindering his villain point intake. Aizawa continued as both glanced at Izuku currently helping the pink girl. They heard one of their colleagues gush about young love, making Nizu chuckle, and Aizawa groaned, already expecting the headaches the green-haired boy would give him. He then took a slightly irritated sigh and glanced at the screen that showed Katsuki, the ash-blonde, glaring when someone got close to complain to him that he was destroying too many robots, making him back off. The other didn't get a single rescue point. Your plan of rehabilitating him will be hard and annoying, you know that, right? Aizawa says as he glances at Nizu with a furrowed gaze. The Chimera didn't seem to mind the doubt one but the doubt of his employee, choosing to feed the tired underground hero irritated curiously. Of course, I know this will not be easy, Aizawa. But, you need to admit the possibility of seeing if the right guidance can truly change the path of a violent and cruel person is something truly intriguing, Nizu says as he glances at both examinees, many ideas on how to break down this particular situation he accepted to create. So this is just an experiment? Aizawa asked as he raised an eyebrow, curious about the principal plan. The Chimera shook his head, his smile still present. A test, mostly for young Bakugo, for the victim who has no adult guidance ever to let us handle his abuser. We just handle this. Then, we can work to improve both's journey through this school if possible. Nizu said as he looked down and took a satisfied sigh. Aizawa was about to say something but Nizu whispered again, but it gave a more eerie vibe. Naturally, all of this depends if Bakugo will pass the exam. If he doesn't, he will not have a second chance and the little test will be forgotten in favor of making him face the ordinary consequences of his illegal and cruel actions. But, given his capabilities, he has very good chances. This means that we must be extra vigilant towards him, Nizu says calmly as he claps his paws together and looks at Aizawa again, his friendly smile returning. After a couple of seconds, the underground hero grunted in acknowledgement, making the Chimera understand that he was at least satisfied with the explanation. As more and more examinees were shown fighting with everything they had to pass the exam, some judges started voicing their thoughts. Oh my, doesn't this year's group look promising? A sultry female voice says with a small chuckle at the end, the owner crossing her long and attractive legs as she leans her head on her hand, looking at the screen with a smile as she sees the students give their best. Well, we can't know for sure yet. A male gruff voice says, its owner being a tall, wide-set man of a bulky, muscular build. They all are making interesting progress, for now. But Nizu started to say, making the judges turn towards him. The Chimera looked towards the judge beside him, who looked back, the light of the screen revealing All Might in his skinny form. The real test has yet to come. Let's see how they react, Yagi-san. Activate our special guest, Nizu says with a smile. The number 1 hero nodded and pressed a button, the name Haruki switched under it. Yen 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 yen. Meanwhile, Izuku. Spirit gun. Izuku shouted as he fired another spirit bullet and launched the attack right on a one-pointer head, damaging it. The robot staggered, having severe difficulty with its coordination now that it was blind and its control point was damaged. He narrowed his eyes and didn't wait for another second to point his right hand in a gun position. Hiya! He shouted as he fired his 4th shot and launched another spirit bullet, finishing the job and causing the robot to fall limp, smoke coming out of the damaged head. The boy panted as he held his right arm with the other, his fingers twitching. 70 points, that should not be enough. Pant, Izuku started to say between pants, but then he started getting winded because of using his spirit gun. He looked at his palm and noticed that only his index fingertip was glowing, and signs that his body was starting to suffer the recoil of using his spirit energy in battles. But he stopped when he heard terrorized screams coming out from the front. His eyes widened, instincts kicking in immediately, urging him to rush forward and see if there was someone in danger. But, before he could do that, the ground started to vibrate. What is happening? He thought, starting to get very scared. What could create so much vibration on the ground? He didn't have to wait for the answer as he saw smoke coming from behind the building at the end of the street in front of him. Other examinees were seen coming from the T intersection, running towards him terrorized. The smoke became closer and closer to the building until a titanic robotic hand was placed on the top of the building, and then, it pushed down, completely obliterating the building. The boy stepped back as his face paled, his pupils shrunk as he saw the owner of the hand reveal come forward over the rubbles, an enormous faux villain, a 0 on its massive head. Even if Izuku was very far away, he could see that the robot was extremely tall, much more than the building of the city. It's that. The 0-pointer. It's not a little too big. Izuku thought as his blood froze. He couldn't ever find himself able to face it at his current rookie level, especially in his poor conditions. The robot clenched its fist and punched forward, creating an enormous quantity of small debris to be thrown forward together with a very strong wind, diapering the smoke. This made the examinees that were running stumble, some even fell, but they dodged the rubble as much as they could and continued to run in Izuku's direction. He was about to turn around and run too, but he remembered President Mike saying this robot wasn't expected to be fought, it wouldn't have granted any points. But still, he wanted to be a little slower than the others, so he could make sure that everyone would run away. Before he could start running, he heard something that made his entire body stop in his tracks. Ow! He heard a whine of pain coming from the 0-pointer direction. It was muffled by the other examinees screaming, the rumbling sounds of the 0-pointer, and the distance between the source and the boy. But, it was enough to bring his body to a stop. His eyes widened as he quickly looked back and his pupils shrunk, finding who it belonged to. The same auburn-haired girl that he met at the front gate and briefly exchanged a wave during the exam was on the ground, a piece of rubble over one of her legs. She had a pained expression on her face, her eyes closed as she tried to dull the pain in her leg as she tried to hurry up, but she just managed to push herself a little from the ground. Everything seemed to slow down for Izuku, the vision of the titanic 0-pointer getting closer, the examinees running beside him, his own heartbeat being audible, and the kind girl being blocked and at the mercy of the 0-pointer. Let's do our best, jumping boy. Giggle, the memory of what she told him at the front gate crossed in his mind. His hero instinct inside his brain, his pupils dilated as his nerves seemed to be on fire, and his eyes glowed teal, and every single part of his mind shifted from fear to burning determination to rush forward. Izuku's entire body was immediately surrounded by spirit energy as he rushed forward without a once of hesitation. His instincts weren't a voice urging him to help others, it was his aspiration, one he would never question. He didn't notice that the same pink girl that he helped before just ran past him but stopped when she saw him standing there immobile. She didn't see the auburn girl, so she immediately thought Izuku was simply scared. She tried to reach for his arm and drag him with her so they could run, but he just started floating from the ground before flying towards the 0-pointer, soaring past the dark blue-haired boy in the process, who also stopped, leaving both shocked by him running towards the titanic robot. Izuku skipped past the other examinees, using his increased speed to avoid butting into them, his eyes a mix of green, teal, and surprisingly a flicker of gold as he could feel the burning determination to help the girl dull any pain that his strained body was feeling. The adrenaline started pumping in his system once again, making him increasing the power of his spirit energy beyond the limit feel less painful. After dodging a couple of debris soaring up into the air ready for his attack, the girl looked up in surprise. This immediately attracted every judge's attention, who now focused on the screen that showed him with laser-like focus. Spirit. Izuku started as he passed through the robot's fingers, now just in front of the robot's head. His spirit energy covered his entire body as he extended the limb, pointing his finger tip, charging up his final shot with his signature constant high beeping. A huge spirit bullet started forming much larger from his other shots and gun. Izuku roared as he shot a huge spirit energy bullet into the zero-pointer head with everything he had, destroying it and causing the titanic robot to fall backward, explosions rampaging all around its body as its internal components were either broken or fried because of the extreme damages. Izuku, still floating in the air panting from exhaustion, had a smile on his face while muttering out, "Phew, that was easy." After seeing the destruction, Izuku felt his spirit energy was low, but it was enough to keep him in the air. However, he didn't, and that wasn't the time right now. He quickly descends the ground, tripping slightly before landing on the ground, panting somewhat with his hand on his knees. "Man, that was intense," Izuku mutters, quickly looking over his shoulder and seeing that the girl that he just saved was being helped by the other examinees, which he sighs in relief. He then headed out to rest up, wondering how good he did. Yen 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 yen. The judges looked with extreme interest as they saw the zero-pointers being destroyed by a single blast of energy from the same examinee that attracted their attention. All Might was at the edge of his seat, his grin even wider while watching his quirkless hero instincts for a second time, much better than the first. Nizu was cheering happily beside him, extremely satisfied at the display of courage, heroism, and strength. Such power. The one that stands more among the already promising crop of this year. A calm voice says, belonging to what appears to be a humanoid block of cement with black, seemingly shut eyes and gray hair tied into a short ponytail. His body shape is evenly blocky all around his body. He was wearing an outfit consisting of a sleeveless brown suit that included yellow stripes, shorts, and an elongated collar. He also sports gray shoes with yellow soles. His tiny eyes were a bit wider, impressed by the display of overwhelming strength. I agree, even the way he behaves is something that we should keep track of, as his response to underwhelming pressure was to rush forward to protect the other examinees, not hesitating to use his quirk to its fullest to do so. It isn't the same level of power he displayed during the exam until now, so that level of strength, that is a truly powerful quirk, another judge says seriously as he nodded. The light of the screens hitting him and revealing his features. He seemed to be wearing a tan cloak that covers most of his body, the area over his torso, and the high collar resembling that of a double-breasted trench coat. His head was covered by a black helmet with a jaw guard attached over his nose and around his jaw and circular mufflers. He also seems to have lightweight prosthetic legs. His arms weren't visible, possibly because they were kept under the cloak. Nizu laughs at this, which caught the attention of the others. Nizu sir, is something the matter?" Cementos asked in confusion. "Oh, the reason is that this examinee is completely quirkless," Nizu answered, which caused everyone except for All Might to be completely shell-shocked. While looking, Aizawa looks disturbed and unimpressed, crossing his arms. Yen 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 yen. 1 week later, Midoriya's house. Izuku sat silently in front of the dinner table, staring blankly at his plate while slowly moving his chopsticks through the food, almost playing with it. There was just so much going on in his head right now that he didn't notice himself drifting off into thought again. The results of the exam, and now also that nice girl he met a week ago. It was hard not to go off track and forget what he was doing, in this case, eating. Izuku? He heard a sound coming from the front. He forgot or didn't register that his mother was sitting in front of him while eating, and from the sounds the boy heard before, those weren't his memories, but his mother's voice calling him. This made him blink and look up at her, noticing that she seemed a bit concerned and confused. "Izuku, hey, what's wrong? You don't like it? I can make you something else if you want." Inko asks with a bit of worry. She noticed some moments ago that her son had stopped eating halfway and was staring at his plate with a confused and thoughtful expression. She tried to call him to see if everything was okay, but he didn't answer the first 2 times. Her son zoomed off a lot. But this time, he seemed particularly out of it, and by the way he was looking at his plate, maybe it was because he didn't like the food. Huh? No, Mom. Everything is fine, the food is good, I'm just a bit distracted, that's all. He said nervously as he quickly waved his hands nervously, being careful to let go of his chopsticks to not cause a mess. He needs to be careful with these mindstorms, especially in front of others. Inko slightly tilted her head to the side as her eyelids dropped a bit. That's not being simply distracted. He seemed to silently panic to himself, his expression changing continuously like he was fighting a war in his head. If something is bothering you then, you can talk with me, she says as she places her chopsticks beside her plate, wondering what was bothering her son so much to make him zoom off so much. Well, it's nothing important, I'm just worried about the results of the exam. It wasn't all the truth, he was still very perplexed about the intentions of those people his age he met during the exam. The more he thought about them, the more he could feel himself grow anxious as he remembered how physically close he was to some of them, and how he had friendly conversations. Oh, don't worry about it, you have been working and studying so hard, I find it hard to believe that my little hero didn't catch the teacher's attention. So don't worry, I'm sure you passed. She says with a small smile, trying to encourage her son to be more confident. The boy was silent for a couple of moments before going back to stare at his plate. I guess you are right that I made as many points as I could. I hope it's enough. He muttered still uncertainly, but at least it seemed that her words managed to ease up his anxiety a little. Without saying anything else, he took his chopsticks and resumed eating, his face lighting up as he could feel the taste in full. Sometimes he lost his sense of taste, but he was happy that it didn't happen again in months. Yen. Late afternoon. Izuku was sitting on his bed, looking down at his open notebook with a thoughtful stare. The anxiety of not knowing if he passed or not, frankly he knew he passed the written and practical exam with no problem. Maybe it was just normal to be anxious about the exam. Before he knew it, his door was shoved open by Inko, who was comically sliding on the floor as soon as she entered his room, something in her hand. Izuku. Izuku. It's here. It came. It's here. Inko says quickly as sweat comically flies from her head. She showed that in her hand she had an envelope with the UA symbol on it. Izuku stared at her blankly before blinking and recovering from his stupor, raising himself from the bed with an even more nervous and panicked expression as his brain just registered that the results of the exam were here. Ah. Thank you, Mom, he says as he takes the envelope, noticing that it was a bit heavier than he expected. There was something hard inside. I will wait for you here, don't worry about anything, honey, I'm sure you have passed. She encouraged him as she raised herself from the floor, a less nervous smile on her face. She was sure he passed. Nobody would be blind not to see what she saw in him, the kindest and sweetest hero around. Izuku hummed and he nodded, still very nervous but trying to put on a more confident face to boost himself up. Inko closed the door to give him some privacy while he saw the results of the exam. The boy turned towards his desk and walked over to it, sitting on the chair in front of it and placing the envelope on it, his anxiety and eagerness mixing in a shaking and sweating mess. Okay, this is it. I just need to open it. I can't move, I'm so nervous. He muttered as he nervously stared at the still closed envelope. In it, there was his future at UA, positive or negative. He kept staring at it for another few moments, building the courage to finally see the results. The anticipation was killing him. So, he decided to bite the bullet and get it over with. He shakily grabbed the edges of the envelope and opened it, but he was surprised and confused when he saw a metallic disc inside instead of a written message. What is this? He muttered confused as he grabbed the disc and looked at it from various angles, noticing a button on it. Maybe it's a tape recorder? But it's so weird, why not a simple letter? Izuku muttered confused as he, seeing that there was nothing else on this disc, decided to press the button and see what it was. Immediately after, the upper part turned on, and then, a beam of light followed, revealing that this wasn't a tape recorded but a holographic projector. Whoa! Izuku gasped in surprise as he dripped the projector on the desk, his eyes glancing up as he saw the light form a rectangular shape similar to a TV. The screen was black at the start until. Hello, I am the one who could be a dog or a mouse or a bear, but more importantly, I'm the principal. Nizu. Cheerfully voice was suddenly heard from the projector, the hero being seen up close on the hologram. Ha, the principal, cool. Izuku spoke nonchalantly. The hologram kept talking, attracting his laser-like attention. First of all, I am going to blunt you are in. Congratulations, Nizu said, and Izuku was shocked, but mostly happy. I'm in. I did it, he muttered. Nizu explained as he raised the remote and clicked a button on it. The screen behind him lit up and showed the ranking dot with Izuku in the first place. 170 points. Congratulations, Mr. Midoriya. You are first in the ranking. If I remember correctly, you beat an All Might score which was 110 points, you excelled at the exam, and looks like you did it. And do you know what this means? All Might asked as his smile widened even more, like he already knew his Izuku was feeling right now. He was right, every word was making his knees weak and his emotions difficult to contain. Relief and happiness finally started to dominate his mind for once, his vision getting a bit foggy because of the tears dripping. Mr. Midoriya, you passed with a perfect score. Congratulations my student for being the first quirkless child to pass the exam. You are already that dependable and exciting hero you wanted to be, don't you think? Nizu said as he put the remote on the desk and turned towards the camera, ready to say something that Izuku wanted to hear all his life. Welcome, Mr. Midoriya, to your Hero Academia, the hero concluded as he held his paw forward as if to invite Izuku into his dream. He couldn't believe it, he not only passed, but he also excelled like he wanted. He proved those that doubted him wrong. The uniform and your school ID will be delivered to your house shortly, be careful not to lose them or destroy them, but for now I must cut off the video, stay safe my young student ha ha ha. Nizu concluded as he made a salute gesture. The hologram turned off immediately after, leaving Izuku silently starting ahead with teary eyes and something plastered on his face, something he rarely did. Outside the room. Inko was walking back and forth outside her son's room, worry and anxiety oozing from every pore. Even though she was sure no teacher would see her son's heroic qualities, this world is cruel, especially considering how the teachers of the other schools Izuku used to go to treated him. But she had hoped this time would be different. Her anxious thoughts were interrupted when the door opened, and her eyes darted towards it just to see her son there. His eyes were teary and he was shaking, but there was something that immediately surprised her. He was smiling, not a fake one that he gave her to reassure her that he was okay. He was the happiest she ever saw him in years. Izuku you. Inko started to say, her eyes wide as she realized what this meant. I did it, Mom. I did it, Izuku whispered with his smile widening the smallest bit, his heart much light as he realized maybe, all this training didn't go to waste, he could be useful to others, to All Might, to his mom, he could be a dependable cool hero like he always wanted. Inko immediately started to tear up as she couldn't hold her happiness either. Immediately she rushed to him and hugged him as tightly as possible, even if he felt that his ribs were about to snap, he accepted it, he was so happy to care about anything else. My baby did it. Ah. I'm so happy, Izuku. Inko shouted as she happily cried rivers of tears. He returned the hug. Finally. Their life was going the right way. April, first day of the U term. Do you have everything? Yup. Your cell phone? Have it. Your wallet with your school ID? In my pocket. What about your tissues and handkerchief? Got them. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. But are you Dash? I'm sure Mom. I'm gonna be late. Izuku was at the front of his apartment, making sure he had everything he needed for school with his mother nervously asking him things to make sure. I've got to hurry. Izuku said as he put on his signature red shoes and quickly opened his front door. Izuku. Inko called out to him. What? Izuku turned back to his mom and saw a small smile with tears in the corners of her eyes. Inko admired her son in his UA school uniform. You look cool. Izuku was partially taken aback by this, staring at his mother with a look of wonder. He then formed a determined smile on his face as he left his apartment yelling, I'm off. He started to run down the street with the largest amount of excitement that he'd ever had. Today was his first day of school. And not just any school, but the #1 hero academy of his dreams, Udata High. He desperately wanted to use his super speed to get there faster, but he knew he would get in trouble. A thought came into Izuku's mind, prompting him to stop for a moment. He's quirkless. The quirk laws don't apply to him. He then grinned, before disappearing and racing to the school, only appearing as a flashing blur for a second before disappearing again and then reappearing in a different area. Izuku smiles while racing to the school, thinking that things might be different. He didn't know why he felt his bones and energy. For some reason I think things are going to be different I wonder why. Yen. Midoriya's house. Inko was currently doing the laundry after seeing his son off thinking of if he was okay. After the conversation about his school life, the Bakugos, and his powers, when she hears everything she breaks down in tears repeatedly apologizing for not helping him and being a terrified mother, but Izuku comforts and reassures her that it wasn't true. Mom, you are not a terrible mother, you are the absolute best for all the love and care you gave me, I love you, and no matter what I will always be grateful. Hearing those words, she believed that her son wasn't meant for this world. He was so kind and caring, yet strong, very strong. She saw that in his eyes the burning passion to help people. She knew she would always be proud of her son. Looking at her laundry and then her hands thinking about her son and his future to become heroes. From this point, she was going to support him no matter what the question was. How? Yen. At UA. Walking through the hall looking around in awe, amazed at that he was finally here. After making it didn't take him long before he finally came across a giant door, labeled, Class 1A, on it. Izuku's eyes widened at such a huge door. This is huge, but he then took a deep breath, grabbed the handle, and slid the door open. Looking around and seeing that it was empty only shows the many desks in sets of 5 seats sitting off in 4 rows. Guess I'm the first one here. Izuku just shrugged it off, before walking inside, closing the door behind them, and heading towards the last desk near the corner. Seeing that he had some time to kill, he leaned into his desk, crossed his arms, and took a nap to wait for class to start. Soon other students started coming in and took their seats. One pink student in particular was talking with her friend who looked to be a bunch of clothes floating in the air. I tell you Toru Tokoyaki is best, gasp it's him, Mina said, but stopped when rushed over to Izuku desks. Mina, stop, he looks like he's asleep, Toru interjects as Mina pouts while she hears some arguing from 2 of her new clad. Don't put your feet on the desk, the glasses, the student ordered. Huh? Bakugo grinned in his seat. What junior high did you go to, your side character? Bakugo remarked at the glasses. Student. The glasses student paused before explaining, I attended semi-private academy. My name is Tenya Ida. Semi? So you're a DMN elite, huh? Looks like I'll have fun crushing you. Bakugo teased Ida. Crushing? That's cruel. Do you truly aim to be a hero? Ida gaped. TCH. Bakugo spat before glancing at the back as he spotted Izuku sleeping and growled for Izuku. But then, the door slides open revealing Aizawa looking tired and annoyed, not wanting to be here, just got out of bed with his eyes tired and droopy. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa, nice to meet you, he said, looking unamused. Homeroom teacher? The whole class thought in disbelief. Aizawa then reached into his sleeping bag and pulled out a number of PE uniforms, tossing them to the students. It's kinda sudden, but put this on and go on to the field. Don't make me wait. He then left the room as quickly as he was in it, leaving everyone completely confused as to what happened. Surprisingly, as no one noticed, Izuku had vanished from the desk and was walking with his hands in his pockets, while thinking. This will be interesting. Yen. The boys' locker room. Currently in the locker room, Izuku thinking about the test in their homeroom. He knew Aizawa aka Eraserhead had a reputation in UA. I mean that man literally expelled his entire class all because they didn't have the potential. I mean it was the first day with much of nervous teenage, what did he expect? But his thoughts were cut when heard. The hell, dude, what's up with your body? Everyone except for Bakugo looked and either gasped or cringed at the sight. The boy had grown more, now standing at 6 feet 0 inches and possessing an indisputable mass of hardened yet lean muscle over his entire frame. But what scared them was that they saw multiple scars, gashes, and what looked to be explosion scars on his body. Who did that? The yellow spiky-haired guy stuttered while asking. Izuku didn't say anything and just got the rest of his gym uniform on and walked out to the fields, leaving everyone speechless. Yen. After making it to the field, they saw Aizawa, who didn't look annoyed and unimpressed. I hope you all have a good reason to take things slow, because with each second you waste, more lives are taken, Aizawa says bluntly, causing everyone to flinch except for Izuku and some others. Now, the staff of UA was given freedom on how they teach their students, and as such, I would rather we jump straight to business as the orientation is irrelevant, Aizawa says before grabbing his phone and showing a list of activities on the screen. We're going to do physical tests here. Most of these were done in middle school, but unlike them, you are all required to use your quirks for this. 50-meter dash. Grip strength. Standing long jump. Repeated side steps. Ball throw. Distance run. Seated toe touch. Sit-ups. So, basically an exercise test with our quirks. Well, except for me, Izuku thought. Midoriya, Izuku perks up before he feels some people staring at him. You've gotten first in the entrance exam. What was your distance when you did your ball throw? Well, I didn't do very well back then because I was very scrawny, so 40 meters. Izuku says, and now he feels everyone staring at him. Aizawa decides to toss the ball towards Izuku, which he catches in reflexes. Right. Now, do it with your quirk. Izuku can hear a snicker from Bakugo, which makes him sigh in annoyance, before walking to the center of the circle. He takes a deep breath before he lets the energy in him flow through his body. This will give me the chance to try out this. Concentrating his spirit energy, his signature teal energy aura started showing, making everyone intrigued while some were in awe. Bakugo of course glared and growled at the broccoli-headed boy. At the same time, another student with a burn scar on his face was mostly curious about Izuku's strange power. Whoa, that's so manly, a boy with spiky red hair said. So does he have an energy-type quirk? A girl with long black hair wrapped in a ponytail said. Ah, man. I thought he was going to use that sword thingy he used in the exam, Mina said while pretending to swing her hands around together like she was holding a sword. But the one who was most interested was the blonde girl from some who happened to be Melissa Shield and also the 9th user of One for All. When she heard Izuku's name be called out, she remembered a conversation she had with her Uncle Might. Yen 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 yen. Flashback. Melissa, I'm going to be honest with you, you were not the first I decided to make as my successor, All Might said in his skinny form. She wasn't really surprised, but she was curious as they were currently at one of the personal gym. Really, who? All Might face away from her and then stares at the ceiling for a moment. A young boy around your age, and surprisingly this boy is also quirkless like you. This shocked Melissa to hear there's someone like her in Japan. He's just like me. Yes, yet somehow he was able to tap into an unknown source of power that is not a quirk and that is completely unheard of. Melissa was even more interested in this boy. What? But how? That I'm not sure. I hope once he gets into UA I can speak to the boy about his powers, but be as it may, All Might then faces Melissa with a serious look. You shouldn't get on his bad side. From what I saw, the boy is highly skilled, smart, and most importantly powerful. I hope after talking to him I can introduce you to him and maybe the two of you can become friends. Melissa then absorbed all the information about this quirkless boy, thinking if the two could be friends. Flashback end. Yen 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 yen. Melissa thought that All Might was right about him being powerful. Aizawa of course didn't look impressed. He then saw purple energy start forming around the ball, with sparks and the crackling of electricity. He then drops the sphere as he stops floating a few feet above the ground, taking a stance, and rearing back his leg. Reshu, Kokyu ha! He kicked the sphere with all his might, creating a sonic boom as everyone was hit by a powerful gust of wind and lightning started to spread around the ball's trails. Everyone stares at the display of power in shock as Izuku looks at the ball before he stops his energy and the reinforced feeling around his body disappears. Izuku then took a deep breath and looked at everyone's expressions, but what he sensed was the emotions from his teacher, mostly hostile emotion coming from him. Yeah, that's not good. Looks like this teacher is getting off right off the back. Here, you will all push beyond your limit on each test. Aizawa says as he shows the result on the screen, displaying 2031 m on the screen. Holy sheet, 2031 meters? That's a whole new record. A boy with blonde hair and a black streak in his hair exclaims in shock. How are we supposed to beat that? A guy with black hair and weird elbows asks in utter disbelief. This looks fun. A pink-haired and pink-skinned girl exclaims. The last one causes Izuku to have a bad feeling. Hearing that, Aizawa looked up. It looks fun? He then formed a sadistic smile on his face as he looked towards the class. If you really think it's fun, then how about this? Whoever comes in last place within the tests will be judged to have no potential at all and will be punished via expulsion. Wait, everyone cried out instantly. He can't be serious. It's the first day. Izuku thought as he checked his key, his eye widened slightly, realizing that he was serious. When I said we're given the freedom, that also includes what we do about the circumstances of our students, Aizawa says as a creepy grin forms on his face. Welcome to the hero course. No, seriously. How does everyone approve of this hobo as a teacher? Izuku thought. Why you can't expel us? This is the first day of school. Even if it wasn't, this is too unfair, a girl with green hair exclaims in shock. And do natural disasters and villain attacks also fair? Aizawa asks in a harsh tone, silencing everyone. This world is full of unfairness, and heroes are the ones who can overcome this unfairness. If you simply want to hang out with friends at McDonald's after school or go to the arcades, too bad. For the next 3 years, the UA will do everything it can to give you all one hardship after another. There are reasons why the UA's motto is Go Beyond, plus Ultra. Try to overcome all of them with everything you got. I get that he wants people to take heroic course seriously, but isn't this a bit much? Izuku sweat drops before looking at his classmates, noticing some of them were getting nervous. This got Izuku said, gripping his fist in anger as some of his spirit energy started leaking out. Give your plus ultra performance, there's no way you'll ever become real heroes if you don't. Aizawa finished. From there, the rest of the tests began. 50-meter dash. Tenya and a girl with long dark green hair were seen in a 4-point start position behind the starting line, their feet positioned on the start blocks as they prepared to run as fast as possible. While the others were simply waiting for the test to start, Izuku was staring at her with curiosity. His eyes moved down to glance at her hands, once again noticing that they were a bit larger than normal, and then he glanced again at her face, admiring her facial frog-like features. I wonder what quirk she has, maybe related to her features, a frog-related quirk? Or maybe it's just a normal mutation. Should I talk to her? She wanted to talk about Selkie, maybe she wants to start where we stopped. Izuku wondered a bit shyly inside his head. Even if he was still a little nervous about being around so many people, he discovered that being close to someone he knew was nice people at least eased his worry, making him feel less alone. Naturally, there's always the problem with how to start the approach. On your mark, da. The robot standing on the finishing line said, cutting his thoughts off and making him immediately look up at the two, his internal debate completely forgotten. Get set. The robot continued, and both Tenya and the girl slightly raised their midriff to adjust their position and run even more effectively. Bang! The sound of a gun being fired was heard from the robot, starting the test, and the two didn't waste time. As Tenya ran using his engines to quicken his pace, the girl leaped like an actual frog, covering a lot of distance with every leap. Wow! Izuku muttered as he saw how fast Tenya was for the first time. He also noticed the smoke coming from his calves, so that's where his quirk factor is located. Cool. The tall dark blue-haired boy quickly made it to the finishing line, his muffle still emitting smoke. Tenya Ida, 3.04 seconds, the robot announced, earning some impressed looks from some students. The girl caught up after a couple of seconds, landing on all four at the finishing line. Tsuyu Azui, 5.58 seconds, the robot announced, the girl in question turning to look behind with a calm expression, the tip of her long tongue being outside of the corner of her lips. So that's her name, huh? Interesting, Izuku said inside his head, thinking of the possibilities she could do with her quirk. Soon everyone started going one by one until it was his turn. Getting in position, he barely noticed that it was Bakugo. You're going to lose, you quirkless sheet, Bakugo barks while Izuku just sighs and slightly shifts his feet. Everyone was confused about what he was doing. Aizawa's eyes narrowed looking at Izuku, knowing that the boy wasn't taking this seriously. The two races get ready to start. On your mark, da. The robot standing on the finishing line said, get set. The robot continued. Bang! Whoosh! In that second, Izuku disappears before their vision using his super speed technique, races towards the finishing line, leaving everyone in shock. What the hell? He just vanished. Did he teleport? Izuku Midoriya, 1.98 seconds, the robot announced, as everyone looked over to see Izuku stretching his arms and legs, not even looking to be breathing hard. Huh, not bad, even though he held back. What? Impossible, you BSTRD. I won't let you overtake me, Katsuki thought angrily as his explosions got bigger, going as fast as possible to catch up to the green-haired boy. Explosive speed. Katsuki shouted as he put his arms back with his palms facing his opposite direction, unleashing small explosions to propel himself forward at high speed. Katsuki Bakugo, 3.87 seconds, the robot continued, making Katsuki's eyes widen too but also shake, pure disbelief in his mind. He thought he was beaten by Deku, again. And by using a power that he used before. Bakugo glares at Izuku, barely glances at him, before walking towards the group, gritting his teeth in anger. I'm going to kill that nerd. While Izuku was walking, he was able to sense a familiar key signature which he glanced at a certain and saw was All Might, who was picking through All Might, and then noticed was panicky and hiding back in the corner. Yen. Soon one by one each test started going off, with Izuku getting the top score in each test without using his spirit energy at all. Of course, Bakugo got angry with Izuku while Aizawa just narrowed his eyes watching Izuku not put any effort into the test, but another student was also holding back as well. After all the tests were done, the students were waiting in front of the screen that would show their results. Many had their hearts hammering in their chests, scared that they may be the ones who would go home. It didn't help their stern teacher walking in front of them, standing there with a remote in hand. Okay, I'll quickly tell you the results. You should probably have a good idea of your standing already. It's a waste of time to explain each one verbally, so I'll show you the results all at once. Aizawa explained, and as soon as he did that, he tapped a button on his remote, causing a holographic screen to be shown to everyone, the rankings on it, and what the students saw shocked many of them, especially one. 1. Momo Yaoyorozu. 2. Shoto Todoroki. 3. Katsuki Bakugo. 4. Tenya Ida. 5. Fumikage Tokoyami. 6. Mizo Shoji. 7. Mashiro Ojiro. 8. Eijiro Kirishima. 9. Mina Ashido. 10. Toru Hagakure. 11. Koji Koda. 12. Rikido Sato. 13. Tsuyu Azui. 14. Yuga Aoyama. 15. Hantasiro. 16. Denki Kaminari. 17. Kyokajiro. 18. Minoru Mineta. 19. Izuku Midoriya, Melissa Shield. Izuku grimaced while looking at the scores, while the students were confused. The blonde girl looked absolutely pale. Izuku was able to sense the feeling of fear and panic from the girl, which he could understand. Melissa Shield, huh? Wait, could she be related to David Shield? He thought to himself, but caught wind of the other students commenting on the scores. Wait, that can't be right. There has to be a mistake. Yeah, those 2 scores can't be that low. This is so unmanly. Sensei, Izuku noticed someone speaking more broadly than the others. She was mature looking for her age and had black hair wrapped in a ponytail. What is it, Yaoyorozu? Aizawa asked annoyingly. Sir, could the scores be wrong? Midoriya and Shield-san should have. These 2 got the lowest because they weren't taking the test seriously, that is why, Aizawa said as he turned to the 2 of them. Midoriya, Izuku, Melissa, Shield, you 2 are hereby expelled. Get the hell out of this school. 2 sentences. 2 sentences were all it took for Izuku to have his dreams crushed and his respect for Eraserhead as a hero ripped away from him. He and the class stood in place in silent shock, unsure if any response could get them expelled as well. Melissa, of course, was completely shell-shocked as tears started forming. She couldn't believe this was happening. Did she do something wrong? Her uncle might have given her the chance to live her dream. She trained so hard and was able to control one for all at 20%, and she just found out that she has 6 more quirks coming in. She had Float and Black Whip, but she needed more practice with them. She thought that 20% of one for all would be enough, but she failed. He. But then her thoughts were cut when she heard laughter. She, including the rest of the class, turned to his Izuku and started to chuckle. Hey. Everyone there started getting either worried or creeped out. Ha 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 ha. Aizawa getting angry and annoyed by this kid being a hero is some sort of game, thinking about lying to be quirkless will give him some sort of sympathy, no way. Finally having enough of this kid, he decided to speak up. What's so funny, you brat? Aizawa spat in anger. Then in the moment Izuku slowly stopped laughing while looking at Aizawa with a displeased expression. Well, to think after everything that I've been through, what I have seen from this dark society, I thought UA would be different, but... Izuku looks directly at Aizawa and uses his super speed technique to dash Aizawa at incredible speed which no one saw coming. So fast. The man himself barely registers that Izuku was in front of him, looking at him as if the hand of death was staring right at him. In that instant, Izuku quickly hit every one of the pressure points in his chest in a different finger strike. Aizawa in the moment felt a pulse run through his entire body. He gasped as he felt like something was sealed. What is this feeling? Then within a split second, Izuku had Aizawa on the ground face first. Having his knee on his back, using his left, keeping his face pinned down. While having his right arm in his wrist lock. Ark. When did you? Gasp. Aizawa stopped, as he glanced at Izuku, but when he did he saw the face of disappointment and expression of silence and anger on his face. So as I was saying, this school is nothing but a joke. Today was something that no one had thought would turn out like this at all. Now, seeing their homeroom teacher on the ground being handled by a boy their age. However, this boy was skilled and powerful. Izuku looked right into his soul. Before he could process anything, a voice spoke out. Young Midoriya, stop. All Might spoke, coming out of his hiding spot trying to stop the situation, causing everyone to be in shock and surprise. All Might? Uncle Might? Melissa called out. Uncle? Everyone spoke in shock, but Izuku grins at this, confirming his suspicions on who All Might picked to be the next user of One for All, but now it made perfect sense for him to pick his niece. Oh, so not only were you going to kick me out, but the #1 hero's niece. I'm starting to think how much UA has fallen so much. Izuku while tightening his grip on Aizawa as he grunted in pain. All Aizawa could do was glare at Izuku. In all his years of training, he had never seen this high level of combat prowess before. But the fact that this child was able to best him in a second was something that shouldn't be possible, and then there were his powers. Just then Izuku's ki sensed an incoming attack. He quickly let go of Aizawa, dodging an incoming explosion, and skidding for a second before standing up. He then glares at the person who wanted to beat the sheet out. Really, Bakugo, do think that attack was going to work with my senses? Izuku was boredom as Bakugo glared while small explosions crackled in his hands. Shut up. You quirkless sheet, I'm going to put you in your place, Deku. Bakugo yelled. Izuku just sighed while shaking his head, muttering, idiot. Young Bakugo, stop this right now, remember your restrictions. All Might ordered as Bakugo stopped. He knew attacking another student would get him screwed after everyone found out about the skeletons in his closet. The rat and heroes had been watching like burnt on toast. He was so frustrated, and it was all Deku's fault. But if he were to attack now, he'd been kicked out of UA or worse, sent to jail. After a moment, he angrily calms down, not before, his tongue and shoving his hands in his pockets. Good, now everyone, today's lesson is over. Get changed and then head to your homeroom. Get your schedules, All Might directed, and the students complied when everyone was gone. All Might sighs in relief as he glances over to see Aizawa slowly getting up and rubbing his wrist. If he did not step, all hell would break loose. I didn't need your help, Aizawa grumbled while rolling his shoulder. Still, said at Izuku, able to subdue him. If I hadn't, the boy would have beat the living crap out of you, All Might argued with him. Right now he was mad that he had just lost his chance to talk with Izuku about his powers. Plus he too wanted to beat the living shit out of him for making his niece. Aizawa got at All Might and used his quirk on him out of anger. But nothing. His hair didn't stand up. His eyes weren't glowing. All Might was still in his buff form. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He felt something was wrong, something was blocked, and his brain started working on what was wrong with him until he concluded. It was Midoriya? All Might then notices Aizawa's expression on his face and wonders what the man is thinking. What is it? He noticed that Aizawa was more sad as his fist tightened in anger. I can't use my quirk. Yen 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 yen. The scene changes, where we see Izuku walking out of the school on his first unorthodox day. Today was seriously a weird day, but was interesting, one being that he found out who All Might chose to wield One for All. He was surprised it was his niece, the shield girl. But he also felt that she was hiding something. When he first saw her he couldn't help but be curious about One for All. All Might said it can stockpile power, which should only allow for the user to increase physical abilities. But when he used his key to sense the quirk, he picked up 7 different faint energy signatures that were inside the quirk. He was able to feel that 2 of them were active, while the others were sealed. This quirk was strange. He was glad he didn't take it, but there was also another reason for that. It doesn't matter anymore. I'm expelled now, so it looks like I'll have to find another hero school. I heard that Shiketsu takes their test a month after UA's first day, or maybe Ketsubutsu, or perhaps I'll go the vigilante route. I mean, they can't arrest me since I don't have a quirk. Thinking about the many options he could take since UA was total shit. He probably would have to explain this to his mother, which was probably be a whole lot of crying. Knowing how emotional his mother gets, thought that he should probably get some more buckets for the tears. Yet his train of thought was interrupted by a voice calling out to him. Midoriya-san. Turning around he saw Melissa running over, calling out to him. Izuku will admit she is hot, but he was wondering why she wanted to talk with him. Midoriya-san, I need to talk to you, she added. Before she could even get close to him she was cut off by her classmates blocking her way, asking so many questions. Are you really All Might's niece? Are you staying in UA? Hey babe, wanna hang out sometime? What's America like? More questions were being asked as Melissa was feeling overwhelmed, then glanced at Izuku, who awkwardly smiled and waved before using super speed to escape. Melissa froze in place, turning black and white, missing her chance. Yen 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 yen. After leaving the school, Izuku was thinking of some ways to blow off some steam after the sheet show that had to deal with today. But there were a few things that weren't horrible, like All Might stopping Bakugo was nice of him, even though he could just seal his quirk away too. While walking some more, he noticed a sign on the window at the supermarket. Big sale on pork cutlet. Buy one get one half price. Grumble. Izuku's stomach was grumble for the taste of food. He then remembered he hadn't eaten yet and he was starving. Meh, why not, he though, shrugging his shoulders and walking inside. Yen 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 yen. Are you sure about this? Nizu asked, looking at the chart. He was in his office with Recovery Girl, and All Might in skinny form. I'm positive about this, Nizu. I went over the data on Aizawa's quirk 5 times. I don't know how, but somehow that boy was able to completely block Aizawa's connection to his quirk. Recovery Girl answers. All Might, who was once again set off. The fact Aizawa ruined his chance to talk to the boy, expelled him and his niece. Now, he has to clean up Aizawa's mess and figure out how Izuku can seal away people's quirks. So not only can he manipulate a strange energy, manipulate the elements, fly, but now he can seal away quirks, and the idiotic man just expelled the boy, but also my niece. Man, I need a drink, All Might said while closing his eyes and pinching the bridge of his nose. My main concern is that the boy was able to strike the pressure points within the body at high accuracy and precision. What's to say from him striking certain pressure points to disable certain functions within the body that could lead to internal injury or worse, death? Recovery Girl explains as the other two had a grim expression at the thought of that. That is why I reinstated Mr. Midoriya as well, Ms. Shield. I already sent an email to him and you can let your niece know. Toshinori, Nizu explains as All Might sighs in relief knowing his niece was still in UA. What about Aizawa though? All Might asked while Nizu sighed. Until I can find a suitable replacement, he'll still have to remain as Class 1A homeroom teacher for now, he answers. Sighs, that man is something else. To be honest, I'm glad the stuck-up jackass of a teacher got what he deserved, Recovery Girl commented. All Might and Nizu couldn't help but laugh. Honestly, if young Midoriya didn't do anything I would sock that idiotic motherfucker, All Might admits. Nizu sighs at the trouble that Aizawa causes. He knows he needs to find someone capable and soon. But all agree and hope that Izuku wasn't doing something bad. Yen 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 yen. What they didn't know was that Izuku was having the time of his life. BBBUUURRRPPP. Oh man, that was so good. I think I outdone myself this time, Izuku said, leaning back in chair, finishing his katsudon with some spicy bean sprout salad after just coming back from the supermarket. Theses were the finer things in life that Izuku enjoyed very so much. He always loved cooking. This was one of the ways that helps him get his mind off annoying things. Letting his mind and body relaxes always makes sure he doesn't go batshit crazy. After cleaning the table and kitchen, he headed to his room and lay on his bed looking at the ceiling thinking about his next move, but before he could get a chance to think, his phone alerted him. VMM. Huh? He thought as he pulled out his phone from his pocket and looked at the message. Dear Mr. Midoriya. On behalf of UA and myself, I would like to sincerely apologize for this type of treatment with one of our staff members treated you. We have restated your enrollment into UA and we hope you are also able to come in before school starts to explain a couple of things. Again, we certainly apologize to UA and hope to see you again. Sincerely, Principal Nizu. After looking at the email, Izuku was a little surprised by this. Heck, there was even his school schedule emailed on here, thinking that UA might be different, but another concern was why would they want to talk to him? Thought it was probably about his spirit energy. The thought had crossed his mind, telling them about his powers. Then there was also the possibility of them asking him to train some of the students, but that was a complete no on his part. Well, he just had to hope everything goes smooth sailing tomorrow. Man, what a drag, he mutters before resting off and taking a nap. Yen. The next day, Izuku was up early heading into UA in his uniform. He looked ahead and saw Nizu, All Might in his skinny form, and surprisingly Melcia as well. This should be interesting. Ah, young Midoriya, you made it good. Allow me to introduce someone to you. This is my niece Melissa. Shield. All Might introduce her niece, and Melissa processed 2 steps forward and bows introducing herself. Hello Midoriya-san, my name is Melissa. Shield. It's nice to formally meet you, and you can call me Melissa if you want, she said with a smile. Izuku smiles at her too, thinking that she might be nice. Nice meet you Melissa, and my name is Izuku. Midoriya, a pleasure. Izuku then looks at Nizu. I take it that you wanted to talk about yesterday's incident as well as talking about my powers, Izuku guessed. Nizu smiled at this. Very perceptive of you Mr. Midoriya, but how about we take this conversation into my office now? We led the way, Principal, Izuku said as he followed them into Nizu's office. Yen. After making it into his office, Izuku was sitting on a comfortable couch while the other 3 were sitting across from him. Nizu offered some tea and Izuku accepted. Taking a sip before placing the cup down, Nizu began to speak. Alright, let's begin with yesterday. Mr. Midoriya, All Might had informed me of the incident. Afterward, Aizawa was unable to use his quirk. Are you able to shed some light on the subject? Nizu asked as Izuku chuckled at that. Hey, well, I think that was appropriate punishment. Now what I did was I jabbed many pressure spots in the nervous system that restrict the person's ki. Now no one knows this, but quirks factor are aligned towards the center of the body, near the heart. By infusing my energy in my fingertips, I strike certain points around the quirk factor, create a box-like container around it, completely cutting off a person's ability to access their quirks. Izuku explains in detail on the sealing technique. All 3 of them were curious about this technique. So there's no way for something free their quirk by themselves? Melissa asked. No, like I say, the only way for a person to regain the uses of their quirks, Izuku started. He raised his hand slightly and channeled his spirit energy in his hand, the water-like energy flowing out. He looks at them with a serious look. If only I use my energy to unlock the container. And this powers that speaking about isn't a quirk, All Might implies. Izuku sighed while rubbing the back of his neck. He then took a drink of his tea, before grabbing his backpack and opening up. Now what I'm about to tell you is that no one in Japan knows about this. An ancient power has been around since long and long before the dawn of quirk and faded out with their rays. Izuku finished. He then pulls out his energy book along with 3 journals, placing them on the center of table. It's called spirit energy. Spirit energy? Yes, spirit energy is an energy source that is drawn through the soul and spirit of the human body. This energy is possessed by all humans. It is very powerful if used correctly, and can be wielded by any spiritually aware human. However, the strength of the energy varies between persons. It is unique from person to person, much in the same way as fingerprints and voice prints. Energy can be converted into weapons, used to enhance the strength of the body, heal, and much more. Izuku explains, opening the book and showing some pages. Nizu was highly intrigued by the information stored in the book, wondering if it was possible to train some of the students in this form of power. And you just found this book? Melissa asked in confusion. Actually, I think it's more on the fact that it found me, Izuku said while scratching his head. While the others were confused. It found you? All Might remarks. Yeah, you see, Back then I have the ability to sense different energy signatures from animals, plants, and people. At the time, when I was 3 years old, I thought it was my quirk slowly manifesting, but when all the tests came out negative I knew that this ability wasn't a quirk. Yet I still trained to advance my goal, and it all being at a beach. A beach? Melissa questions. Yes, it was at Takoba Municipal Beach where I found the book as if it was calling to me. After that I started training myself to use spirit energy. There were a couple of paragraphs that mentioned that someone could use spirit energy by training or being born with an innate ability for using ki or spirit energy, and it turns out that I was born with both innate. Izuku explains, which Melissa got confused on the two abilities. Ki? I never heard of that term before. Ms. Shield, ki is actually the term for a person's life force energy, isn't that right Mr. Midoriya? Nizu explains as All Might tries his best to keep up, but still had trouble. Yes Principal Nizu, you are correct, but it goes much deeper than that. People looking at you, the sound of their breathing, their smell, the motions of their muscles, the vague sense that they're there, this is ki. This flow of life energy within people's bodies, including humans and animals, is also affected by their thoughts and actions. The quality of a person's ki is influenced by their emotions and intents, such as people with tumultuous emotions have equally chaotic ki and those filled with malice have unsettling ki. Each individual's ki is unique, and it is rare for different individuals' ki to be the same. With proper training, ki sensing can be used as an additional sense to predict attacks and others' movements, including natural objects and events found in nature, also having spiritual awareness. It can even locate invisible people. By tracking another person's ki, a sensor can detect whether or not that person is lying. Izuku goes into detail and explains his abilities. All Might started connecting the dots on how Izuku was able to dodge Bakugo's attack. So that's how you were able to dodge young Bakugo's attack, you sense his ki. That's correct, All Might ki is actually like a sixth sense ability while spirit energy focuses on the physical aspects. The gears in Nizu's head started to think of all possibilities for his students who had a quirk, that non-combat type quirk, to use spirit energy to give them a boost. He knew this would help the hero community exponentially. All you have to do is say the right words. If that's the case, Mr. Midoriya, would it be possible to train Dash? Sorry Principal Nizu, but that's a big fat no. I won't be teaching the students spirit energy ever. Izuku interrupted him, knowing how this conversation was going. Immediate shot down. Melissa and All Might gawked in shock. Oh, why is that? Izuku looked directly into Nizu's eyes as he spoke. Principal Nizu, with all due respect, I will not be the cause of why your students ended up crippled or worse dead because you asked. Each one of their faces became pale as a ghost. When they heard crippled and dead, Nizu's face grimed at the words, but he could tell the reason why Izuku shot him down immediately. There was a danger in using spirit energy, but the question is why? And please light us on why you won't, Nizu asked. It's better if I show you this, Izuku said. He pulled something from his pocket and showed a DVD. What's that? Melissa asked. This is a record from the last person with a quirk who trained in spirit energy. Here, you can use the television set to watch it. Nizu suggested the television set on the bookshelf. Izuku stood up, walked over to the set, then inserted the disc inside the player before walking and sat on the couch. Nizu then pulls out a remote from out of nowhere and presses play. The blue screen shows before showing a static image right after a voice spoke. Okay, is it work? Cough cough cough. Oh man, okay. As the image finally became clear, All Might, Melissa, and Nizu looked pale and horrified while Izuku himself grimaced. What they saw was a girl who looked to be around Melissa and Izuku's age, but she looked dead. His skin looked completely pale, bulging veins were showing around her body, her cheeks were shrinking in, she was sickly and bony, her hair was frizzy, her fingernails were completely black, she had bags under her eyes had barely any color, just dull, her voice also sounded raspy. Hello, my name is Asuna Himari. If you're watching this it means I'm dead, but this wasn't caused by natural causes, this was caused by using spirit energy. Everyone, you may be wondering why the discontinued with this story. Well, I'm going to be blunt with you guys. I feel burnt out with the story. I thought I can get something going with this story, and through the last 6 I thought I was going somewhere with the 7th, but I just couldn't, how would you say, put it together in a sort of way that within this version of what Izuku would do if he had ki and spirit energy. I did want to give this story a shot, but I just couldn't formulate the right plot and where Izuku becomes a hero without a quirk, Melissa having one for all, and how would the girls listed in the tags would interact with Izuku. So it's with heavy heart that I decided to discontinue this one and focus on the original version that I did put it up, Ashes of the Past. And with that one, I feel more creative towards this one. It gives Izuku the power of ki but not be overly powered like from other fanfiction crossovers like Dragon Ball Z. This sort of thing, so it with heavy heart that I am going to discontinue the story, and if there's anybody who wants to take this story and make it in the own way, you have my total blessing to do whatever you like to the story, and I am truly sorry for those who actually did like the story and wanted to see more. It's just I felt like I wasn't going anywhere with this one. So I hope you guys do enjoy the rest of my stories as well, also being supportive fans. Thank you.
Okay, sadly the chapter is over, and if you enjoyed the video just leave a like, and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.